Summer 2076. On that day, humanity remembered the terror of being ruled by natural disasters. Global temperatures surged without warning. Rivers dried up, and the earth cracked open. Catastrophic volcanic eruptions followed, accompanied by unprecedented earthquakes across the planet. In merely 3 hours, the world crumbled, an apocalypse made flesh. Just as despair gripped every human being on Earth, buzz, a voice echoed instantly in the minds of 8 billion people worldwide. Welcome to the space survival game. Matching survival landing pods for all humans. Matching complete. All humans, please enter your landing pods to become players. The pods will transport you to your personal spacecraft in 10 seconds. Scorching heat and searing waves cut through walls. Indoor temperatures had already climbed to levels unbearable for ordinary people. Bai Qi had filled the bathtub with cold water and soaked in it to stay cool. The moment the mechanical voice resounded, the air in front of him twisted and rippled. A silvery, futuristic pod appeared before his eyes. It looked uncannily like a coffin. A glaring red light flickered atop the pod, and a countdown flashed clearly for Bai Qi to see. 10, 9, 8. Outside lay a hopeless cataclysm. Before him stood an unknown, eerie capsule. Turbulent, restless emotions churned in Bai Qi's mind. Staring at the dwindling countdown, Bai Qi gritted his teeth. Drenched in water, he climbed sideways into the silver landing pod. Whatever happens, I'll take the gamble. The instant the countdown hit 0, boom, a thunderous roar exploded in the ears of every living creature. Through the pod's viewport, Bai Qi witnessed an unforgettable sight. The blue planet he had called home for 20 years shrank, collapsed, and disintegrated right before his eyes, finally condensing into a blazing sphere of light. His home was gone. The second Earth exploded, billions of silver landing pods burst with streams of light. Brilliant beams shot through the shattered atmosphere, ignoring the devastating shockwave of the planetary collapse. Countless pods surged into the pitch-black depths of space, scattering far and wide across the void. After an indeterminate stretch of time, the sensation of weightlessness faded entirely. Bai Qi's eyes flew open. He gasped sharply, his heart hammering violently. Remnants of terror clinging to his senses. The familiar bathroom ceiling was gone. In its place were futuristic metallic bulkheads, with a cold, glowing holographic console positioned forward. The icy touch of the seat beneath him felt vivid and real, snapping him fully awake. It wasn't a dream, Bai Qi muttered quietly, his mind reeling. A plot that only existed in novels had become reality for him. Forcing back his shock and confusion, he swept his gaze across the cabin rapidly, searching for rules and clues. Soon, he spotted a blinking red light in the corner of the console, impossible to miss. Bai Qi steadied himself and tapped the glowing dot. A translucent blue screen unfurled. Neat white text materializing line by line. Space survival rules. Your exclusive spacecraft is your sole safe haven. No other player may board without your authorization. 2. All items aboard your craft belong to you. Nothing can be lost, except upon your death. 3. Energy is the core of survival. When your craft's energy depletes, you will suffocate. By any means necessary, gather interstellar materials to upgrade ship systems and fend off unknown dangers of deep space. 5. If unknown interstellar signals are detected, do not respond rashly. 6. Every player receives a unique spacecraft and an exclusive talent. You may access your personal information at any time through your consciousness. Lastly, good luck clinging to life in the endless void. Bai Qi finished reading the rules and tapped to close the interface. Following the instructions, he summoned his personal panel using his mind. Name, Bai Qi. Race, human status. Healthy. A miniature 3D model of Bai Qi appeared. Fully tinted green when zoomed in. Strength, 3 agility, 5 constitution, 3 spirit. 6 higher spirit improves sanity resistance and speed sanity recovery. Sanity, 100 out of 100. Below 30, mental instability. Below 20, suicidal impulses. Do not let it drop below 10 if possible. Exclusive talent. Gamblers will talent cooldown, 17 hours remaining. Next daily draw refreshes in 8 hours. Talent effect. Activate the talent wheel once per day, resetting at midnight. 3 random items appear on each draw. You may keep only 1. A minor guaranteed reward triggers every 10 draws, and a major guaranteed reward every 100 draws. After reading his talent description, Bai Qi's mouth twitched. He was filled with helplessness. A gambler? He had never been lucky. Every gacha pull he had ever done relied on hitting pity timers. Trapped in this deadly space survival ordeal, he was bound to a talent that depended entirely on luck. Pushing aside his complaints, he continued scrolling through the panel. Exclusive spacecraft. Gambler's vessel escape pod class level, LV.0. Durability, 100% speed. 3 armament. None energy. 13% 72 hours of travel remaining special effect. A vessel reserved solely for gamblers. Resonance between your talent and craft grants 1 additional daily draw for ship-related supplies. Description: a crude escape pod, barely worthy of being called a spacecraft. Will your gamble end in survival or ruin? Seeing the mere 13% energy reserve, Bai Chi's expression darkened at once. Only 3 days. Shouldn't there be a novice protection period? At the very least 7 days. Why? Thankfully, he still had the daily will draw. Without that glimmer of hope, he would have no reason to keep going. He sighed, forced to pin his hopes on this ability. Suppressing his anxiety, he scrolled further and found the chat function. Channels were divided into Galactic Channel, Regional Channel, and Private Messaging. The Galactic Channel was in complete chaos, messages flooding the screen far too quickly to read. This isn't a dream. Earth is truly gone. We've lost our home forever. Focus on surviving right now. At least you're still alive. Help. My escape pod only has 1% energy left. I won't last half a day. Does anyone know how to harvest energy? Begging for help. Damn it. My ship doesn't even have thrusters. I can't move at all. I'm starving. There's no food or fresh water on my craft. This is impossible to survive. Anyone want to trade? I have some food. Looking for clean water. Son, where are you? It's Mom. Mom, I'm your son. I'm starving to death. Send me food. Can you believe that scam? Using family to lie? Shame on you. Mom, I'm your real son. Quit bickering. Can anyone share useful information? I only have 15% energy left. I'll die in 3 days. How do we collect resources? I searched my entire ship and found a spacesuit. I guess we're meant to head outside to gather supplies. This vital jolt of information pulled Bai Chi back to focus. He immediately stood and searched every corner of the cabin. Soon, he located a basic spacesuit inside a side storage compartment. Next to the suit rested a uniquely shaped, futuristic revolver. A spark of joy flared within Bai Chi. He summoned the weapon's details with a thought. Name: Gambler's Revolver E300 grade. Fine description: a sidearm built for gamblers. An outdated relic, sufficient for beginners. It requires no bullets to fire. You only need to pull the trigger, but you must gamble whether a shot will discharge. Even if it fires, do not celebrate too soon. You then gamble on how powerful the shot will be. After reading the description, Bai Chi's excitement faded, replaced by stunned speechlessness. He truly could not keep a straight face. Draws rely on luck. The fate of his ship relies on luck. Even fighting requires a gamble? Are you kidding me? Everything comes down to a gamble. Am I doomed to gamble for the rest of my life? He slipped on the inner lining of the spacesuit to cover himself, strapped the revolver to his waist, and refocused on the holographic console ahead. He slid his fingers across the screen, familiarizing himself with all available functions. Numerous icons appeared, yet most were grayed out and locked. Advanced systems such as scanning, warp drive, and radar remained inaccessible. Bai Chi frowned and kept scrolling the interface. As he swiped, a tiny gift icon caught his eye. Bai Chi tapped it. The icon expanded, and he read the label, lighting up with anticipation. Gambler's Gift Unclaimed. Description: a legacy left by gamblers of the past. No one can predict what lies inside. Fortune or disaster, everything hinges on your luck. Will you take the gamble? Does it ever stop? After reading the text, frustration welled up inside Bai Chi. Fine then, let's gamble. He threw caution to the wind. Let's see how lucky I really am. Maybe it'll spawn some monster and put me out of my misery. Without further hesitation, he tapped the screen to claim the exclusive gambler's mystery gift. Golden light erupted the next instant, 2 silhouettes forming within the glow. Congratulations on claiming the gambler's gift. Obtained. Pet cat bound obtained. Pet a rat bound obtained. Exclusive gambler bond buff. Cat and mouse rumble. Bai Chi rubbed his eyes, confirming what he saw. He quickly opened the panels for his 2 new pets. Pets, unnamed ×2 grade. Trait: as long as their master lives, the 2 pets are immortal. They are unaffected by environmental conditions and immune to aging. Exclusive bond. Cat and mouse rumble bond effect. They spend most of their time chasing and fighting. While clashing, they may bring unexpected blessings or unforeseen trouble to their master. Description: a pair of chaotic rivals. Fortune and misfortune walk hand in hand with their endless brawls. They could turn your fate around or drive you to madness. Do you like them? Staring at this absurd bond effect, Bai Chi had no more energy left to complain. The golden glow faded, revealing the 2 small creatures. Before Bai Chi could react, the cat and rat locked eyes. Meow. Squeak. The cat's fur stood on end. It pushed off the floor, skidding briefly before pouncing. The rat seemed to anticipate the attack, darting straight into narrow gaps. A wild chase between cat and rat erupted inside the spacecraft. The quiet cabin descended into chaos. Watching the familiar scene unfold, Bai Qi fell silent. At least the ship was empty. There was little for them to destroy. He decided to leave them be. After exploring every system, he set a navigation route and reopened the galactic channel to hunt for useful intel. Ha! My luck is insane. Look what I found. Name: Space Patrol Standard Lightsaber Grade. Common description: standard equipment for patrol officers. Limited power. Do not grow over-reliant on it. Space Patrol? Are there police out here in the void? Will we get arrested if we break some rule? Who knows what interstellar laws exist? They can't be the same as Earth's, right? By the way, what does everyone's spacecraft look like? I'm dying of curiosity. Mine's disc-shaped. Can you believe it? Whoa, a UFO. Mine's spherical. Confirmed. Every player's ship has a unique shape and interior space. Starting supplies and gear are wildly different for everyone. Players flooded the channel with screenshots of their vessels, countless bizarre designs filling the feed. Seeing all the different spacecraft, people slowly realized no one began this survival game on equal footing. Curiosity stirred in Bai Qi, and he pulled up a 3D model of his own ship on the console. The sight made him let out a bitter laugh. Wow, they're not even trying to hide it. Unlike all the other players' crafts, the gambler's vessel defied every conventional spacecraft design. Its hull was flat and streamlined, matte black, covered in fine shimmering gold grain patterns. It looked refined, like a carefully carved work of deep space art. A black spade. Really? Why not a heart instead? Bai Qi's lips twitched, utterly baffled. How was this unnatural craft even capable of flight? He could only hope upgrades would let him alter its appearance later. After all, this was barely a proper ship, only a makeshift escape pod. Bai Qi opened the ship upgrade interface and read the requirements for level 1. A line forming on his forehead. Upgrade LV.0 LV. 1 required. Basic metal times 1000. Basic timber times 1000. Bai Qi let out a helpless chuckle. Are we actually supposed to land on unknown planets to farm resources? Holding onto a sliver of hope, he opened the star chart. Unsurprisingly, the screen showed nothing but endless blackness. Bai Qi shrugged in resignation. No point worrying now. There was nothing he could do but wait. He turned his attention to the still, brawling cat and rat, settling on names for them. The two little creatures continued chasing each other relentlessly. Bai Qi leaned back in the pilot's chair and watched, his anxiety and irritation fading slowly. He could watch this all day and never grow bored. As he watched the commotion, the rat suddenly changed tactics. It moved with clear purpose toward a wall panel. Bai Qi raised an eyebrow, his gaze fixed on the creature. The tiny rat halted before the bulkhead. Its delicate paws scratched rapidly, teeth gnawing at the ship's specialized hull material. The craft's outer alloy was engineered to withstand deep space conditions, tough, pressure, resistant, and radiation-proof. Ordinary impacts would barely leave a mark. Yet something bizarre unfolded before Bai Qi's eyes. The hardened hull yielded like cotton candy. In mere moments, the rat chewed a neat semicircular opening just large enough for its body. Tom the cat lunged forward and crashed headfirst into the smooth wall. Its skull flattened momentarily before snapping back to normal. It shook its dizzy head, staring at the newly formed rat hole and bristling with rage, pacing back and forth at the entrance. Suddenly, its eyes lit up. It crept quietly away from the opening. What happened next left Bai Qi utterly stunned. Tom reached behind its back and pulled out a plate of milk and a block of cheese. It set the food on the floor and lay nearby, pretending to sleep, hoping to lure the rat out. Bai Qi paid little mind to whether the rat would take the bait. He was already completely dumbfounded. Where on earth did it pull that from? Bai Qi stared in shock. He understood one thing clearly now. Logic did not apply to these two creatures. Inside the hole, the rat poked its head out cautiously. Beady eyes locked onto the cheese and milk, ready to dash out for a meal. But the instant it showed itself, a human figure rushed toward the food at incredible speed. Before the two pets could react, Bai Qi strode forward, grabbed the cheese, and devoured it in a few bites. He then lifted the milk plate and drank it all in one go. Burp! Now it was the pet's turn to be stunned. Tom lurched backward, eyes blown wide, mouth agape in pure disbelief. Its ears drooped instantly, staring at its owner with a mournful expression on the verge of crying. Inside the hole, the rat covered its eyes with its tiny paws, shaking its head repeatedly, seemingly exasperated by its master. Bai Qi remained calm and composed. He held out a hand and crooked his finger toward Tom. Hand over any other supplies you've stashed away. Let me see what you've got. Tom drooped its tail, reluctant and dejected. After lingering hesitation, it pulled a sausage out from behind its back and set it slowly in Bai Chi's palm. Good boy. Bai Chi scratched Tom's head, took a large bite of the sausage, and mumbled in reassurance. Once I'm well off, you won't go wanting. Seeing its miserable look, Bai Chi felt a twinge of guilt. He broke off 2 small chunks of sausage and placed them before the pair. The 2 creatures' gloomy moods vanished instantly. They lowered their heads and ate greedily. After finishing the meal, Bai Chi sat comfortably in the pilot's seat, picking at his teeth as he waited for the talent will cooldown to end. Time ticked by. At last, the cooldown timer reached 0. Bai Chi shot upright, rubbed his hands, anticipation shining in his eyes. Within his mind, the outline of a massive gambler's roulette slowly emerged, waiting for him to activate it. He tapped start. The wheel spun gently, and the pointer paused 3 times across the segments. Begin. At his thought, the roulette whirled into rapid motion, streaks of colorful light flickering swiftly. The pointer halted thrice over various prize slots before finally settling into place. 3 cards wrapped in dazzling golden light floated in Bai Chi's consciousness. Name: Ice Silk Underwear, Grade: Ordinary. Description: Crafted from soft, cooling fabric for enhanced comfort. Ugh, what even is this? The corners of Bai Chi's mouth twitched violently. He tossed the absurd card aside without hesitation and turned to the next one. Name: Portable Inflatable Camping Cushion, Grade: Excellent. Description: Handy lightweight cushion for rest during long journeys in the wilderness or space. Pass on this too. Bai Chi's face darkened as he dismissed it, shifting his gaze to the final card. Name: Universal Capsule, Grade: Excellent. Description: Invented by a genius scientist. Utilizes micro-space compression technology to shrink objects into capsule form, bringing immense convenience to the user. Note: Cannot store living creatures. This one's great. Finally, something useful. Bai Chi's eyes lit up. Without a second thought, he selected the universal capsule. The next instant, a square green box materialized in his hands out of thin air. He flipped open the lid. 17 capsules of varying sizes and colors lay neatly arranged inside. Joy surged through Bai Chi. He knew this item well. The capsules were the key to Son Goku's early adventures. He stowed the capsules away, hidden from the 2 little ones, then turned his attention back to the roulette. Unlike the Talent Roulette's 3-choice system, the exclusive Starship draw offered only a single reward. Name: Cat Thruster, Grade: Excellent. Description: External Starship Module. Equipping it removes the need for energy to power travel, though its speed leaves much to be desired. Staring at the model of a white kitten module materializing in his mind, Bai Chi was utterly confused. Soon, the Starship system notification chimed. Detected compatible external module, Cat Thruster. Proceed with installation. Install. Immediately, a 3D hologram of the gambler appeared above the control console. A tiny, adorable white cat materialized at the stern of the black spade-shaped hull. The cat perched at the rear, slowly opening its mouth, body tensed in a gagging posture. In the next moment, a stream of rainbow light blasted forth from its jaws. Bai Chi, he fell completely silent. The aesthetic was far too bizarre. It clashed horribly with his image. Oh well, something was better than nothing, he consoled himself. He then opened the updated Starship panel. Exclusive Starship, Gambler Escape Pod Class, Level, LV.0, Durability, 100%. Base Speed, 3 disabled, External Modules, Cat Thruster Speed, 1, Armament, none. Energy Reserves, 10% sustains basic functions only, remaining runtime, 10 days. Special Trait, a unique starship belonging solely to gamblers. Resonance between your talent and the vessel grants 1 daily draw for Starship-related supplies. Description: A crude escape pod that has seen minor improvements. You turned an impossible dead end into a gamble worth taking. May fortune favor every wager you make. Reading the updated stats, Bai Chi sank into thought. Energy was no longer required for propulsion, buying him breathing room. Still, while the cat thruster saved him from immobility, the speed was painfully slow. As he pondered, drowsiness washed over him. He lay down on the floor. The cold, hard plating made rest difficult. The moment he settled, countless thoughts swirled through his mind, leaving him tossing and turning. He opened the galactic channel. Good heavens! I spotted a treasure chest drifting outside just now, but I didn't dare head out to grab it. Help! My starship collided with a small meteor and caught fire. What do I do? Everyone, I picked up a distress signal from an unknown location. Should I investigate? I'd advise against it. The survival handbook warns against responding blindly. Come on, we've got nothing to lose. Risk everything, and you might strike gold. Waiting for updates. Bai Qi frowned as he scanned the messages, tightening the revolver holstered at his waist. He continued scrolling the channel, and at some point, he drifted off to sleep. In his slumber, he felt something clamp around his throat, robbing him of air. His dream unfolded in endless blackness, heavy oppression weighing down on him. He could not breathe. His chest heaved wildly. His nose and mouth felt trapped in a vacuum. No matter how hard he gasped, not a trace of air filled his lungs. He tried to sit up, but his limbs felt weighed down by lead, completely unresponsive, as if he'd been cast adrift in open space. Warning: abnormal gravitational fluctuations detected ahead on flight path. The shrill, icy system alarm jolted Bai Qi awake from the suffocating nightmare. Cough, cough. Bai Qi's eyes flew open as he coughed violently. When his vision cleared, he was struck speechless. No wonder he'd dreamed of suffocation. The mischievous blue cat Tom had somehow climbed onto his face. His fluffy rear end pressed firmly over Bai Qi's nose and mouth, sealing them shut. Bai Qi lifted Tom by the scruff of his neck. The crushing sense of suffocation vanished at once. Suspended in midair, Tom flailed his limbs, wearing an innocent expression. Seemingly unaware, he'd nearly smothered his owner. Before Bai Qi could fully recover, the entire gambler lurched violently. All traces of sleep vanished instantly. He scrambled to the control console, eyes locked on the flashing red alert pop-up. The basic alarm lacked advanced sensor modules, offering scan information. Only a cold line of text refreshed repeatedly across the top of the screen. Abnormal gravitational fluctuations in forward airspace. Bai Qi knitted his brows tightly, a sense of unease settling in his chest. What exactly was causing these strange gravitational fluctuations? Sensing the ship's shaking, the two little ones crept to the viewport, watching the dark void warily. Bai Qi quickly opened the regional channel to check if anyone else faced the same trouble. Sure enough, messages flooded the screen nonstop. Something's wrong. My ship keeps veering off course for no reason. Same here. My system only reports gravitational anomalies. I checked. Only our sector is affected. No reports on the galactic channel. Does anyone know what's going on? I see it. Meteors. A massive meteor shower. No way. How are we supposed to survive this? Bai Qi's heart sank as he read the messages. He walked to the forward viewport, joining the two small creatures to stare into the distant darkness. Far out in the void, countless jagged shapes grew larger by the second. Swarms of miniature meteors surged forward like a raging river, bearing down upon them. Tom and Jerry exchanged a glance, then darted away in opposite directions. Bai Qi assumed they were frightened and paid them no mind. Bracing his hands against the viewport, he forced himself to stay calm, his mind racing for a way to survive the meteor storm. Yet hope faded the more he thought. He slid helplessly to the floor as the meteors drew nearer. There was nothing he could do. His starship was still merely an escape pod at level 0, lacking any means to fend off meteors. Could he rely on his shabby revolver? Don't be ridiculous. It would be utterly useless. A dead end. A completely hopeless dead end. Just as despair threatened to overwhelm Bai Qi, two tiny silhouettes drifted out into the void, positioning themselves between the meteor swarm and the ship. It was Tom and Jerry. Somehow, they climbed outside the gambler, each clad in a sharp baseball uniform. A baseball bat rested in each of their paws. To Bai Qi's stunned eyes, they looked like miniature warriors. The lifelong bickering rivals had turned defenders of their home. Faced with the wall of incoming meteors, they raised their bats without the slightest hint of fear. Ready. Swing. The two small figures moved in the emptiness. Tom struck first. Dressed in his blue baseball uniform, he gripped the bat tight, twisting his small body to build momentum before unleashing a powerful swing. A meteor the size of a sedan was struck dead center. No sound carried through the vacuum, but the meteor's wild backward flight spoke volumes about the force behind the blow. Tom raised a paw over his eyes, watching the outcome of his swing intently. The hurtling meteor collided with others along its path, shattering them all before exploding. Tom nodded in satisfaction and readied for another strike. Beside him, Jerry wore his yellow uniform, moving with incredible agility. He struck at sharp, tricky angles, knocking smaller meteors off course. He even used tiny meteor fragments to redirect larger boulders, steering them clear of the gambler. Cat and mouse, brute force paired with precision. Their coordination was flawless. The meteor storm that had spelled certain doom for Bai Qi was slowly dismantled, held back by the two tiny guardians outside the hull. Inside the ship, Bai Qi pressed his face against the viewport, eyes wide, staring at the unbelievable scene. He'd already imagined how he would die, yet he never expected these two troublemakers to save him in such a fashion. Countless meteors rushed forward, only to be shattered, knocked away, or deflected. The entire ordeal lasted less than 3 minutes. Every meteor posing a threat to his vessel was cleared from the path. When the last fragment was sent flying by Jerry's upward swing, the blaring alarms faded away. Silence returned. The crisis had passed. Floating in the void, Tom and Jerry locked eyes. Tom pointed to himself, then shook a finger at Jerry, as if claiming he'd landed more hits. That Jerry could not compare. Jerry's face crumpled with indignation. He raised his bat and whacked Tom over the head. Tom's gaze turned glassy. His head lolled, and he stiffened, collapsing straight onto the ship's outer hull. Jerry wasted no time gloating. He dropped his bat and scurried back into the ship. Moments later, Tom jumped upright, rubbing the swelling bump on his crown. He inhaled sharply, his furious eyes darting everywhere as he hunted for Jerry. Jerry had already scrambled to Bai Qi's side, climbing onto his shoulder. He poked his tongue out and made faces at Tom staring in through the viewport. "Blee!" Tom roared in frustration, tossing his bat aside and racing back inside as a streak of blue fur. He tore through the cabin searching for his rival. He even shook the stunned Bai Qi back and forth, yet found no trace of Jerry. Watching this, Jerry doubled over laughing, slapping his tiny paws against his thighs. Tom caught the sound and charged straight toward him. The sudden surge sent Bai Qi tumbling onto his rear. He rubbed his sore bottom, watching the start of another cat and mouse chase. All the panic from narrowly escaping death vanished from his mind. He hurried toward the quarreling pair. "Enough, you two. Cut it out." No one knew his sanity, which had nearly dipped below 40, had climbed back up to 75. When he opened his eyes once more, a faint yet striking light pierced the endless black of deep space. Bai Qi immediately checked the holographic star chart to trace the source of the glow. Without advanced deep space sensors, the chart remained completely blank. Unable to retrieve any useful data, he had no other choice. He adjusted course and headed toward the light. Most likely a star, Bai Qi guessed, leaning back in his seat. Bored, he replayed the chaos of the previous night in his mind. After surviving the meteor crisis, he'd roughhoused with Tom and Jerry late into the night. Even while fooling around, their strength far outmatched his. A casual bump was enough to send him rolling on the floor in pain. Eventually, Tom failed to brake and crashed into him. Bai Qi's eyes rolled back, and he fell fast asleep. Recalling the absurd combat power of the two little rascals, Bai Qi shook his head and smiled helplessly. His stomach rumbled. He asserted his authority as their owner and coaxed food from Tom to quiet his hunger. What followed was tedious, endless waiting. The cat thruster at the stern continuously spewed rainbow light, yet the ship crawled forward at an agonizing pace. Far too slow. His only ways to pass time were watching Tom and Jerry chase each other or scrolling the chat channels. He opened the regional channel. Page after page of lamentations flooded the screen. It seemed the meteor tide the night before had devastated countless travelers. The regional player count had dropped from 100,000 to 87,654. Overnight, more than 10,000 players had perished, left to drift forever in the frigid void. It was terrifying. There was no escaping the meteor storm. My hull was breached. Luckily, I started with a repair kit. I fought to patch the ship and barely survived. There was nowhere to run. Slow ships make perfect targets. I only lived because my vessel had heavy shielding. Bai Qi sighed as he read the cries. If not for his two small protectors, he would have become a cold corpse drifting aimlessly through space. He glanced at the galactic channel, still showing 7.8 billion participants. Against such a massive population, the loss of 10,000 players was negligible, unremarkable to the system. The atmosphere on the galactic channel was vastly different. I've located a planet. I'm heading down to explore. I found one too. Everyone wait for my report. Huh. I spotted a celestial body, but it's a star, way too dangerous to approach. Seriously? How are you all getting so lucky? Most of us are surrounded by nothing but darkness, right? He scrolled for a long while before closing the channel and looking out the viewport. As time passed, the distant glow grew brighter, pushing back the darkness and revealing the landscape of the starfield ahead. Then Bai Qi's gaze sharpened. Illuminated by the light, he saw the void was not empty. A small spherical object hung suspended in space, its rough, frigid outline traced by the star's faint radiance. It dawned on him. Planets were not rare. They simply remained unseen until light revealed them. Bai Qi quickly piloted the gambler into a sharp turn, adjusting course toward the gray sphere. Speeding was a generous term. The ship's progress remained maddeningly sluggish. After hours of slow travel, the small planet filled his entire field of vision. Up close, it was clearly uninhabitable. The surface was scarred and ravaged, covered in meteor craters of all depths. No water, no vegetation. A deathly stillness clung to the world. Stranger still, a thin gray haze wrapped around the planet's outer atmosphere. Only when the ship drew near did the system notification ring out. Detected unknown rocky planetary remnant. Atmosphere extremely thin, no toxic compounds, no radiation. Temporary landing permitted. No life signatures detected. Notice, residual core energy signatures detected within the remnant. Collect planetary core fragments if possible. A planetary core? Some kind of planetary heart, perhaps. Bai Qi wondered. He guided the ship through the haze, searching for flat terrain to land. While dreadfully slow in open space, the gambler moved faster than a missile within planetary gravity. Shortly after, the hatch opened. Cold, dry air flowed into the cabin. Tom and Jerry could wait no longer. Without waiting for Bai Qi's signal, they darted out of the hatch onto the rough gray rock. Cooped up in the cramped ship for so long, the two bounded about excitedly, sniffing and investigating every corner. Bai Qi carefully suited up in his spacesuit, secured his revolver at his waist, and stepped outside. He retrieved the gambler using a universal capsule, tucking it safely into his pocket. His boots landed on cracked, hard bedrock. The planet's gravitational pull felt nearly identical to Earth's, easing his worries. Confusion soon crept over him. The system only mentioned a planetary core existed. Searching the whole planet would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Bai Qi frowned, trying to think of an efficient search method, when Jerry moved. He darted into a rock crevice and emerged moments later, clutching a metallic stone in his paws. He scurried over and dropped it at Bai Qi's feet. Obtained, metal ×1. Description, common metal, usable for basic starship upgrades. Bai Qi's eyes lit up. He could simply follow the two little ones. There was no need to overthink everything. What I gain is my fortune, what I lose is destiny. Well done. Bai Qi spared no praise. Find more strange and exotic materials to upgrade our home. Heartened by their master's compliment and new task, the pair brimmed with motivation. They saluted him sharply, then set off freely, each using their own skills to bring back more metals for him. Bai Qi's job was to wait until they moved to new search areas. Then he would deploy the starship with an all-purpose capsule and store all the harvested metals aboard. Time slipped by. Reading the system notifications, Bai Qi broke into a grin. Obtained, metal ×217. Tom noticed Jerry had collected far more materials than him, and jealousy flared up, stoking his competitive streak. He sneaked away, glancing back at Jerry and Bai Qi from the corner of his eye. Seeing no one watching, he curled his lips into a grin. At the thought of the massive haul of metals he would get from his plan, enough to outshine Jerry and impress their master, he could not hold back a silly chuckle. He secretly pulled a black spherical bomb out from behind him and carefully tucked it into a crack in the rock strata. Next, he took out a match, struck it against his fur, and a flame sparked to life. Tom quickly lit the bomb's fuse, then sprinted behind a distant boulder. He squeezed his eyes shut tightly, covered his ears with his tiny paws, and waited quietly for his grand plan to unfold. 3 short seconds of silence passed. Boom! A deafening explosion ripped through the stillness without warning. Caught completely off guard by the sudden blast, Bai Qi stiffened all over. His legs buckled, and he tumbled awkwardly onto the cold, hard rock surface. His ears rang, his mind went blank, and he stood frozen in shock. He twisted his head toward the source of the noise, his face filled with stunned disbelief. No one could have expected such a violent detonation to erupt amid their quiet resource gathering. Thick black smoke mixed with billowing dust surged skyward, blocking the faint light from the distant star. Stones showered down, clattering against the ground. The once flat rocky terrain was left a chaotic wreck in an instant. Jerry, who had been busy hauling metals nearby, bristled with fright. But he only froze for half a second, before instantly guessing who was behind this reckless act. His small body launched forward, and he charged straight toward the explosion site without hesitation. Meanwhile, the culprit, Tom, remained hidden behind the huge rock. Paws pressed over his ears, eyes squeezed shut, his small frame tensed. He wore a self-satisfied expression, fully convinced he had pulled off an amazing feat, unaware he had scared his master flat on the ground. After the brief daze faded, Bai Qi regained his senses, and anger welled up inside him. He pushed himself up off the ground, brushed dust from his clothes, and strode toward the blast site with a stern expression. ready to give the reckless blue cat a proper talking to. Yet the moment he hurried to the edge of the crater and saw what lay beneath, all his anger vanished in an instant, replaced by overwhelming excitement. Whoa, we've hit the jackpot. Beneath the collapsed rock layers created by the explosion, vast veins of metal lay exposed. Thrilled by the discovery, he leaped down into the crater and began gathering resources at once. Obtained, metal times 326. Obtained, advanced metal times 18. As Bai Qi busied himself stockpiling resources, Tom trotted happily down into the crater after him. His tail stood straight up in the air. Chest puffed out, he marched with bold little steps over to Bai Qi and rubbed affectionately against his trouser leg. His round, shiny eyes practically shouted, "Praise me, praise me," as he waited eagerly for recognition. Looking at his smug little face, Bai Qi felt a mix of amusement and helplessness. He ruffled Tom's head, his tone indulgent. "All right, you've earned your credit. Keep going, blast deeper." At the edge of the crater, Jerry perched on a flat stone. He rested his cheeks in his paws and stared down at the triumphant Tom below. The little mouse looked dejected, clearly filled with resentment. He had worked diligently and honestly all this time. Yet Tom resorted to such underhanded tricks. Given by Chi's command, Tom's energy surged higher. His tail almost curled upward with pride. Without delay, he pulled several more black spherical bombs from behind him and lined them neatly along the rock fissures. Swiftly striking matches, he lit each fuse one after another. Fizz! Once the fuses ignited, Tom sprinted away and ducked behind the distant boulder to cover his ears. Every movement was fluid. It was clear he had done this countless times before. This reckless move made Bai Qi's heart leap into his throat. Tom had already fled far away, yet Bai Qi himself was still stuck inside the crater. The second Bai Qi scrambled frantically out of the pit, the bombs detonated one after another. Boom, boom, boom. Continuous roars echoed outward. Layer upon layer of rock caved in, and the entire crater shook violently. After this round of explosions, the shallow pit deepened drastically. All the broken surface rock cleared away, revealing the veins buried underneath. Vast quantities of ordinary metal and advanced metal carpeted the crater floor, doubling their available resources. Obtained, metal times 682. Obtained, advanced metal times 29. Overjoyed by the massive influx of resources, Bai Qi paid no mind to his dust-covered appearance and urged them on. "Keep blasting. Dig deeper." Tom saluted Bai Qi immediately. Instead of climbing down into the pit, he simply stood at the top and tossed bombs straight down. Not wanting to fall behind, Jerry puffed out his cheeks and pulled out his stock of red firecrackers. He lit them methodically and hurled them down as well, determined to compete with Tom. The second, third, and fourth rounds of explosions followed in quick succession. Thunderous blasts never ceased, clouds of smoke rising and dissipating repeatedly. Thick rock strata were blown apart and hollowed out. The crater grew deeper and wider, transforming the flat underground landscape into a tangled maze of broken rock ravines. When the fifth round of explosions ended, falling rubble settled, and the smoke slowly cleared. The solid bedrock had completely shattered, and a faint glimmer of pale light seeped out from cracks deep within the rock. Bai Qi quickly stopped the two little creatures from throwing more explosives. His gaze locked onto something deep underground, and his heart raced. He climbed carefully down the uneven crater wall. Obtained, refined treasure chest times 1. Obtained, metal times 2872. Obtained, advanced metal times 354. Breathless from exhaustion, Bai Qi struggled his way back up out of the crater. He wiped dust and sweat from his face, suppressing his excitement, and ordered the pair to continue blasting. Meanwhile, he could wait no longer to open the treasure chest he had just acquired. Click! The lock snapped open, and golden light flashed forth. Resting at the center of the chest was a strangely shaped seed roughly the size of Bai Qi's fist. Name, Spirit, Eater Tree Seed. Quality, Refined. Description, growth cycle of 3 days, fruiting cycle of 10 days. It boasts extraordinary adaptability and can survive in nearly any environment. However, it will fail to bear fruit if deprived of sufficient nutrients during cultivation. This Spirit, Eater Tree Seed was another pleasant surprise for Bai Qi. He had just been wondering where he could source timber for starship upgrades. And now a solution had practically fallen into his lap. While he savored the joy of gaining the seed, the constant rumble of explosions suddenly fell silent. A moment later, 2 small figures trotted quickly to stand before him. Tom stretched out a paw and tugged at his coat hem, while Jerry pulled at his trouser leg. Both the cat and mouse stared at him urgently, repeatedly nodding toward the crater, clearly signaling they had discovered something extraordinary. What's wrong? Curiosity stirred within Bai Qi. He set aside his excitement and walked toward the crater's edge following their gestures. The instant he looked down, his breath caught in his throat. What had once been a shallow mining pit after repeated bombings had turned into a vast, pitch-black chasm, its depths vanishing beyond sight. Right at the very bottom of the pit, a glowing white diamond-shaped crystal stood out vividly against the darkness. Bai Qi quickly activated an all-purpose capsule to summon his starship. He and his two companions boarded, and he piloted the vessel downward into the chasm. Before they even reached the bottom, a system notification appeared. Planet damaged core detected. High-grade resource. Can be used for advanced starship upgrades or as an energy source. The notification refreshed repeatedly, making clear how invaluable this planetary core was. Seated in the pilot's seat, Bai Qi could not hide his delight. He was certain no other player possessed such unconventional methods to obtain a planetary core so effortlessly. Soon, the gambler touched down smoothly on flat bedrock at the bottom of the chasm. The hatch opened, and cool underground air flowed into the cabin. Bathed in the core's pale glow, the air itself felt refreshing to breathe. Tom and Jerry darted out of the ship first, circling the hovering white diamond core and chattering and pointing. Bai Qi stepped out, and when his fingertip brushed against the core, an icy chill spread through him. Acquired, damaged planetary core ×1. With the notification popping up, Bai Qi heaved a deep sigh of relief. This planetary expedition had been a complete success, and he returned laden with treasures. The hatch sealed shut. The gambler slowly ascended, soaring straight up through the chasm toward the surface before breaking through the atmosphere and out into space. Bai Qi stared out the viewport at the silent starry void and sighed to himself. This planetary core had arrived at exactly the right moment. After all, without energy, everything he owned would be useless. He walked over to the starship's central control panel. Following the system instructions, he opened the dedicated energy slot and carefully inserted the newly obtained damaged planetary core. A faint hum echoed through the cabin. Pale white energy circulated across the entire ship, and all the onboard lights brightened noticeably. Personal starship, the Gambler Escape Pod Grade. Level, LV.0. Durability, 100%. Speed, 3 disabled. External module, CAT Thruster Speed, 1. Armament, none. Energy, 100% continuous recharging via planetary core. Upgrade requirements, Metal 85667/1000, Timber 0/1000. Description, a simple yet fully powered escape pod. Still haven't upgraded it after all this time? Looking over the updated status panel, Bai Qi felt much more at ease. The energy crisis plaguing countless other players had temporarily been solved. But one problem still troubled him. His stockpile of metal was overwhelming, exceeding 80,000 units. Far more than he could ever use. Yet timber, required for upgrading, remained stuck at 0. He took out the spirit, eater tree seed and glanced at the smooth metal flooring all around him. With a sigh, he placed the seed into the starship storage. No matter how resilient the spirit, eater tree was, it could not take root and grow on bare metal. His self-sufficient farming plan would have to wait for now. If I cannot grow timber myself, I will trade for it. Bai Qi immediately opened the Galaxy Trade channel to browse other players' exploration gains. More than 7 billion players inhabited this star sector. Surely someone had collected timber. Messages scrolled across the channel at a rapid pace, and reading them made Bai Qi's eyes narrow. Guys, I'm back. I found a life-bearing planet with abundant fresh water. I'm in urgent need of metal and timber. Large-scale trades available. Buying bulk metal, timber, fresh water. I found a planet teeming with wildlife. I can supply monster meat in exchange. Over here, the planet I discovered is covered in towering ancient trees. Open to all trades, long-term supply available. After scrolling for a while, Bai Qi's frown deepened. Across the entire trade channel, countless players sought to purchase metal, yet not a single person was selling it. On the flip side, resources tied to life, timber, fresh water, exotic beast meat, were overflowing. The dynamic was wildly abnormal, completely reversed from what he expected. Logically, water and vegetation should be the rarest supplies during interstellar pioneer missions, while metal ought to be abundant everywhere. Could it be that other players lacked reliable mining methods? Staring at his massive metal reserves, Bai Qi did not want to miss this golden opportunity. If supplies of metal hit the market in the coming days, his huge stockpile would lose its value. Without further hesitation, he listed 10,000 units of ordinary metal on the trade market. Unsure of the exact market price, he set a fair exchange rate. 10 units of common resources for 1 unit of metal to test the waters. He then typed out a message and posted it to the Galaxy channel. Bai Qi, large quantities of ordinary metal available for trade. Accepting all resources, timber priority. Fair exchange rates. Prefer bulk transactions. The moment the message went live, the bustling trade channel fell silent for a split second. 2 seconds later, it erupted into chaos. Wait, someone is selling metal? And large quantities at that. Am I seeing this right? Finally, a metal supplier. Boss, I have timber. I'll trade all of it. I can provide continuous supply. The planet I found is full of giant trees. Can we set up long-term trades, boss? Private chat requests and trade windows flooded his interface all at once. All the players scrambled frantically, terrified of missing their only chance to obtain metal and falling behind on starship upgrades. Bai Qi grinned happily as he swiped across the screen, ignoring small transactions and only approving bulk exchanges. Trade successful. Obtained timber times 400. Trade successful. Obtained fresh water times 300. Trade successful. Obtained timber times 620. Trade successful. Obtained unknown beast meat times 250. Line after line of system notifications streamed past. His once sparse storage compartment quickly filled up with timber, plant fibers, fresh water, exotic beast meat, and other materials, fully covering all his early survival resource shortages. In less than half a minute, the 1,000 timber required for the starship upgrade was acquired, with over 1,000 extra units left over. All prerequisites for starship advancement fulfilled. LV0 LV1 starship advancement available. His eyes glinted as he stared at the lit up upgrade button on the panel. He did not hesitate for a second and tapped the pale golden advanced starship button. Confirm consumption. Ordinary metal times 1,000. Timber times 1,000. Initiating advancement of the gambler from LV0 to LV1. Progress 1%, 35%, 78%, 100%. VVVVVV. Once the progress bar reached full completion, the gambler began restructuring and expanding. The tiny vessel underwent a sweeping transformation, with clearly defined functional zones emerging. For starters, the interior space expanded drastically. Separate new areas were created, making it look like a proper starship at last. Personal starship, the gambler level, LV. 1 durability, 100% speed, 7 disabled external module, cat thruster speed. 1 armament, none. Energy, 100% continuous recharging via planetary core unlocked. Fabrication station, smelting station, living quarters upgrade requirements. Planetary core times 1, ordinary metal times 10,000, advanced metal times 1,000 description. It's finally a proper starship. Choose your upgrade path for the next tier. Bai Qi stood and paced slowly through the renovated cabin, thoroughly satisfied. This upgrade marked a massive transformation for the gambler. Tom and Jerry bounded joyfully through the spacious new interior, curiously touching the beds, sofas, and other unfamiliar furnishings in the living quarters, their tails flicking rapidly with wonder. Bai Qi wandered cheerfully into the living quarters. When he spotted the futuristic bathroom, he sighed in relief. He would no longer have to struggle with basic sanitation out in space. What pleased him most of all was the huge bathtub. He sank into the warm water, completely relaxed. While other players struggled just to survive and upgrade their ships, he got to soak in a hot bath, a true luxury. At the far end of the tub, Tom and Jerry splashed and frolicked happily, sending tiny ripples across the water. Comfortably settled, Bai Qi closed his eyes and focused his consciousness on the newly unlocked fabrication station. The list of craftable items was rather short. Name, Sonic Survey Rifle Quality, Ordinary Crafting Cost, Basic Metal times 20, Advanced Metal times 10 Description. Surveys basic resource deposits within a limited radius. Name, Basic Repair Kit Quality, Ordinary Crafting Cost, Basic Metal times 15 Description. Performs simple repairs on the starship. Name, Oxygen Tank Quality, Ordinary Crafting Cost, Basic Metal times 25, Plastic times 5 Description. Extends survival time during extravehicular activity in space. Name, Basic Automated Harvester Quality, Ordinary Crafting Cost, Basic Metal times 30, Basic Components times 8 manufactured from metal ingots at the smelting station. Description, slow, but capable of freeing up your hands for other tasks. Name, Emergency Storage Belt Quality, Ordinary. Crafting Cost, Basic Metal times 10, Timber times 15, Biological Fiber times 10 Description, Basic 9, Slot Storage Equipment. Single, Resource Stacking Limit increased to 99 units. Bai Qi slowly opened his eyes and gritted his teeth. Apart from the oxygen tank and storage belt, How useful were any of these items? Was the system forcing him to become a miner? Bai Qi had never enjoyed hard labor in his life. I've got Emperor Tom and conceptual deity Jerry. You want me to go to work? No way. Absolutely not. I'm Bai Qi. Just the name sounds like a peerless killer. You want me to mine asteroids out in space? I don't want to be some lousy star-grade miner. I want interstellar battles. As Bai Qi grumbled, though, a shrill alarm blared across the ship, and flashing scarlet warning lights sliced through the calm moment. Warning! Warning! Unknown hostile vessel detected approaching at high speed. Warning! Warning! Ship under attack. Tom, soaking in the bathtub, instantly bristled, every hair standing on end. Jerry scampered straight up onto Bai Qi's head. Bai Qi froze, slowly swallowing hard. The bolder he'd been boasting a moment ago, the more awkward the situation now. I was just messing around, buddy. Why get so serious? Panicking, Bai Qi scrambled out of the tub without drying off, threw on the tank top and shorts he'd traded for, and hurried to the cockpit. In the distance, a small dark red warship charged full speed toward him. 4 cold gun barrels at its bow locked onto the Gambler. Hostile unit. Void Marauder level. LV-1 evaluation. You're both level 1, but they look far stronger than you. Boom. The moment the system notification popped up, an explosion rocked the ship. The Gambler durability, 100% 94%. Bai Qi's heart sank, his gaze turning to Tom and Jerry. The ship carried no weapons, no shields. It could only endure hits passively. His only hope rested entirely on the 2 little creatures. But they were also pacing anxiously, clearly helpless against the warship far away. Boom. Boom. Before Bai Qi could think, continuous fire erupted from the 4 cannons. The Gambler durability, 94%, 86%. There was no time to hesitate. Bai Qi sprinted to the control console and pushed the Gambler to maximum speed. The vessel, with a speed stat of 8 plus 1 bonus from the cat thrusters, quickly pulled away. But how could the Marauders let their prey slip away? The Raider ship gave chase, hot on the Gambler's tail. The Marauder vessel was no slouch in speed either. Its cannons fired non-stop, and 1 or 2 shells always found their mark. The Gambler durability, 86%, 77%. Watching durability steadily drop, Bai Qi sweated profusely. While steering evasive maneuvers, he opened the crafting table and frantically assembled basic repair kits. He poured in materials rapidly as a progress bar appeared on the panel. The 3-minute countdown made his features twist with frustration. So many impossible things had already happened. Why did this one have to follow all the rules? Damn crafting station, don't fail me now. Another jolt shook the ship, and durability slid further. Bai Qi wove the ship back and forth in erratic serpentine patterns to buy as much time as he could. But to the Marauders, these maneuvers looked nothing more than desperate flailing. Come on, really? What era was this? Every weapons system came with prediction algorithms, trajectory simulation, and target lock. The raiders on their vessel roared with laughter. What a naive prey. The Gambler durability, 77%, 62% by the time the repair kit finished crafting. Durability only climbed slightly from 62% to 67%. The endless incoming shells gave him no chance to catch his breath. He could not fight back, could not escape, could not repair fast enough. He was trapped in a dead end. As time dragged on, the rate of cannon fire finally slowed. The ship's durability had fallen to 51%. Bai Qi exhaled in relief. It looked like their ammunition was nearly exhausted. Yet the next instant, cruel reality shattered his hopes. At the rear of the dark red warship, the bow slowly split and folded open. An intricately constructed composite cannon barrel extended outward. Electric currents flickered wildly within the deep barrel core, gathering a dazzling cyan glow. They weren't out of ammo at all. They were charging their finishing attack. Sanity, 5 sanity, 10, WO. A burst of cyan light erupted. A condensed energy lance tore through the black void, carrying devastating momentum, striking the Gambler before it could dodge. Blinding explosion light flooded every viewport. The entire ship shuddered violently, tumbling far off course. Its alloy hull dented, scorched, and split open in large swathes. The Gambler durability, 51%, 31%, a single strike stripped away 20% durability. Bai Qi was thrown across the cabin by the impact, bouncing repeatedly off bulkheads before crashing heavily onto the floor. His sanity value plummeted sharply, falling below 50. Thankfully, the 2 little ones were unharmed and hurried over to check on him. He dragged his aching body upright with great effort. But before he could steady himself, cyan light began to gather once more on the enemy cannon. The second charge was complete. At this moment, overwhelming despair wrapped around Bai Qi. Sanity, 10, It's over. Something inside his gaze dimmed. He sank onto the floor, pulling the two small creatures close to calm their anxious restlessness. The second lethal energy lance arrived in an instant. The burning ship tumbled through space, taking another brutal hit. Durability dropping to only 11%. When a third streak of cyan light ignited in the dim void, Bai Qi slowly closed his eyes. Sanity, 3. The second his lids shut, the roulette wheel inside his mind expanded. The countdown displayed at the very top hit 0. At the exact moment the third energy blast was about to collide with the gambler, WM. Purple light coalesced outside the hull. 1 petal, 2 petals, 3. 7 purple petals bloomed in a ring. The instant the flower fully formed, 7 layers of transparent shields unfurled outward, centered around the gambler. Like a divine barrier enveloping the battered starship. The brilliant cyan energy cannon slammed straight into the outermost shield. The expected explosion never came. The raging energy could not breach even the first layer. The shield remained unmarred, shining steadily. The impact only stirred tiny ripples across its surface. Inside the distant Marauder warship's cockpit, the mocking grins of the bandits froze completely, replaced by utter shock and disbelief. How is this possible? What great shield module is that? Our attack did absolutely nothing. Retreat. Full speed retreat now. One raider shouted for escape, while others remained stunned, their minds reeling. Wait a minute, mate? This energy cannon was gear they'd spent a fortune acquiring. It never missed when preying on low-tier vessels. Who could have guessed this tiny, unassuming ship that fled helplessly was hiding a top-tier shield module of such incredible quality? Equipment like this had no business being on a low-class craft. And besides, why didn't he activate it sooner? If he'd shown this shield from the start, the crew would have turned tail the second they laid eyes on it. None of them would have dared provoke him. So all along, it wasn't him messing with them. It was the whole band of raiders rushing about, putting on a show entirely for his benefit. Snapping out of shock, one crew member spun the ship around without hesitation, desperate to flee. But it was too late. A tightly condensed golden beam erupted from the gambler. It moved faster than sight, faster than any prediction system, piercing the black void and tearing clean through the fleeing Marauder vessel. The next second, countless fragments and smoldering embers scattered across space. The Marauders vanished without a trace in deep space. Back aboard the gambler. Quick! Witted Tom and Jerry immediately darted out of the airlock to scavenge the floating spoils scattered through space. Meanwhile, Bai Qi remained rooted to the spot, transfixed by the sight before him. In his panic, he had selected the brightest card on the roulette wheel. He had assumed he would draw a legendary noble phantasm, Ro Ajax, the 7 rings that cover the burning heaven. He never imagined the outcome would be something entirely different. Standing quietly in the open center of the gambler was a stunning white-haired young girl. She gripped a golden longbow in her hands. The radiant golden light flowing across the bow dissolved into tiny specks. The killing arrow that had pierced the enemy warship had been loosed from her grasp. As the golden bow faded away, her sharp, striking red and black combat uniform lost its color. It was replaced by a neat, soft sailor-style elementary school uniform, a school bag slung over her shoulders. Her intimidating, battle-ready aura vanished in an instant, leaving only an innocent, gentle, harmless young girl. Bai Qi stared blankly at the unexpected maiden, his Adam's apple bobbing as he swallowed hard. Before Bai Qi could speak, the white-haired girl broke the silence first. Magical girl Ilya, answering your summons. Are you my brother? Her voice was soft and sweet, yet carried a sense of fate that transcended dimensions, echoing gently through the silent cabin. Bai Qi's mind went completely blank for a moment. He stammered to confirm. Aye, Ilya. The white-haired girl smiled sweetly. Yes, Ilyasviel von Einsburn. A magical girl version? Ilya nodded obediently, pulling a red wand and a blue wand out of her school bag and shaking them lightly in front of him. Bai Qi took several deep breaths to calm the storm of shock surging inside him. Wait, is this roulette wheel truly that overpowered? It can summon characters straight out of other worlds? He quickly focused on Ilya, attempting to view her stats. System scan failed? Scan failed? What's going on? This was the first time he had encountered such a result, and Bai Qi stared in confusion. Feeling Bai Qi's unbroken gaze fixed on her, Ilya's eyes began to drift. Pink blush spread from the base of her neck all the way to the top of her head. Thin wispy white steam rising from her silvery hair. Brother, don't keep staring at me like that. I'll get embarrassed. Bai Qi snapped back to his senses and quickly looked away, his cheeks warming. Sorry, I zoned out for a second. You can take a seat. He glanced around the wrecked cabin, There was barely any clear floor space left. He trailed off and scratched his head awkwardly mid-sentence. As he scratched his head, he realized he was still soaked from the bath. Great. He'd made a terrible first impression. He stole another glance at Ilya, who stood flustered with steam still drifting off her hair. Without lingering any longer, he hurried toward the living quarters, dried himself and his hair quickly, and changed into fresh casual clothes. Moments later, Bai Qi emerged from the living area fully dressed. Repair work had tidied up the cabin somewhat. Loose panels shaken loose by cannon fire were secured back in place. A simple fabric sofa was partially restored. Though only halfway repaired, it was the neatest spot in the cabin. Bai Qi and Ilya sat on the half-fixed sofa, sorting through the gear Tom and Jerry had recovered. Item: electromagnetic railgun grade. Excellent evaluation. Among equipment of this tier, its attack power stands near the top. Higher energy consumption is only to be expected. Item: metal cannon ×2 grade. Common evaluation, standard common weaponry. Moderate firepower, but a benefit is that it consumes metal rather than energy. Item: compact radar grade. Common evaluation, limited detection range and low energy draw, yet far superior to the ship's default sensor array. Bai Qi slid his finger across the holographic interface and mounted all the weapons onto the ship. Personal vessel, the Gambler level, LV. 1 durability, 56% speed, 7 temporarily disabled external module. Cat thruster speed +1 internal module. Compact radar. Armament, electromagnetic railgun, metal cannon ×2 energy. 100% continuously recharging via Star Core upgrade requirements. Star Core ×1. Common metal ×10,000. High grade metal ×1,000 evaluation. You're almost commanding a proper warship. You will choose your upgrade path upon reaching the next level. He nodded in satisfaction as he examined the updated ship panel. Now the ship finally has basic offensive and detection capabilities. It's just a shame 2 of the metal cannons were destroyed in the fight. That offhand remark made Ilya's smile fade instantly. She clutched the hem of her uniform lightly, her clear eyes darting away. Her voice turned soft and quiet, heavy with remorse. I'm sorry, brother. If I hadn't acted so hastily, we wouldn't have suffered these losses. From Ilya's perspective, all the damage was her fault. Seeing the young girl slump her head, looking upset and guilty, Bai Qi quickly shook his head and spoke to her earnestly. Hey, don't say sorry. We'd have lost the whole ship without you. I was just complaining casually. He softened his tone, his gaze sincere and gentle. We can craft, loot, or trade to replace weapons and equipment anytime. And you matter far more than any of those items. Having you here is enough. The moment the words left his mouth, Ilya froze. The next instant, thin wisps of white steam rose from her silver hair. Her pink ear tips flushed bright red, and her whole face bloomed like sunset. Bai Qi watched this familiar, adorable sight, the corners of his mouth twitching faintly, his heart melting. This young girl gets flustered so easily. Watching Ilya with steam still curling from her hair, overwhelmed by embarrassment, Bai Qi feared she would grow more flustered and quickly shifted the topic. All right, I won't tease you anymore. Look at this. He brought up the holographic interface for his personal luck roulette. The talent roulette that had summoned Ilya was now on cooldown, but he still held one unused spin for the gambler's exclusive roulette. Tom and Jerry hopped back into the cabin carrying the last scrap of salvaged alloy. They squatted neatly to one side, bright eyes fixed on the floating virtual roulette, ready to watch the outcome. Ilya slowly lifted her flushed face, curious about the spinning wheel, and asked quietly, Brother, what is this? A special ship lottery. Let's see what treasure we can draw. Bai Qi smiled lightly and tapped the spin button. Woo! A pale blue virtual roulette expanded instantly. Icons of countless modules and devices flashed past at high speed, cycling through common, fine, and rare tier equipment too quickly to distinguish. Several seconds later, the wheel slowed sharply, finally coming to a stop on a deep blue device icon wrapped in swirling light. Item: Resource Conversion Recycler Grade. Rare description: any item you have previously possessed may be converted into another item of equivalent tier. Conversion ratios vary for different item types. Evaluation: incredible luck. You've just upgraded from a basic ride to a powerhouse. Whoa, we hit the jackpot. After reading the item description, Bai Qi could not contain his excitement. This was absolutely an overpowered utility device. He immediately operated the ship's control panel, cleared a spacious area, and deployed the resource conversion recycler. A translucent light shape solidified in the distance, forming a large square blue and white machine. Bai Qi strode forward, adjusting settings on the recycler's interface quickly, a wide smile spreading across his face. Ilya followed with small steps, tilting her head as she watched curiously beside him. Brother, what exactly does this machine do? Bai Qi smiled mysteriously, tossed several chunks of common metal straight into the recycler's intake slot. Moments later, the machine glowed faintly. Hot, crispy fried chicken and an ice-cold can of cola slid out of the output chute. Want some? He held out the fried chicken and cola to Ilya. He wondered if children usually enjoyed food like this. At the sight of fried chicken and cola appearing out of nowhere, Ilya's magenta eyes widened completely. Her face etched with disbelief. She had watched Bai Qi throw in nothing but plain chunks of metal. But those were just metal a second ago. Ilya pointed toward the intake slot, her tone confused and astonished, unable to wrap her head around what she had witnessed. That's why it's such an amazing device, Bai Qi explained patiently, amused by her confusion. You can think of it this way. All the supplies we collect act like currency. The intake slot is where you pay. You can exchange your resources for anything we have owned before. Naturally, rare items cost more resources to create. He saw she still looked confused yet nodded as if she understood, and his smile deepened. He pressed the fried chicken and cola into her small hands. At that moment, Tom and Jerry caught the scent and darted over at once. Two pairs of wide eyes locked onto the meal in Ilya's hands, saliva practically dripping. Haha, don't worry, everyone gets a share. I wouldn't let my two mighty guardians go hungry. Noting their eager stares, he tossed more common metal into the recycler and tapped the conversion interface. Before long, all kinds of delicious food streamed out of the output chute. Bai Qi arranged everything on the dining table. The human and two animals gathered around the lavish spread and took their seats. Jerry perched right on top of the table. Just as he suspected, Ilya bit into the fried chicken happily, her eyes crinkling with satisfaction. Tom and Jerry finally got what they wanted and dug into their meals. Peace did not last long, however. The two little creatures were restless by nature. Each seemed convinced the food on the other's plate tasted better. They began snatching food from one another. And before long, a lively food fight broke out. Ilya covered her mouth, giggling at their antics. Bai Qi watched the warm, bustling scene, his mood lifting greatly. He snapped a photo of the full table of food and sent it straight to the public Galaxy communication channel. He leaned back contentedly, watching the flood of scrolling messages. The screen instantly filled wall to wall with question marks. I want to file a complaint. Someone's cheating. How is anyone supposed to play like this? Damn it. While we're struggling just to survive out here, some big shots already feasting on a full spread up in space. This is ridiculous. Can the gap between people stop being this absurd? Countless resentful bullet comments flooded the screen, blowing up the Galaxy's public communication channel. The all-population survival challenge had only begun 2.5 days prior. Most players considered themselves lucky to get their hands on unknown wild fruits or alien beast meat. Many had barely eaten anything at all, enduring constant hunger. Yet someone was already enjoying a lavish banquet. This stark disparity shattered every player's mental defenses. Hundreds vented their frustration in the channel, burning with envy. I haven't had a single hot meal in 3 days, and he's eating seafood? Stir-fries? Fried chicken and drinking beer in space. How does that even make sense? Quit arguing. This is definitely cheating. System officials, do something. Everyone else struggles to survive while this guy's on a vacation. Has the game lost all balance? Hey, big shot, you need a sidekick? I can mine or scout terrain, and I don't ask for snacks. I'll abandon my ship and come over right away. Sir, take me in. I'm adaptable and easy to get along with. Good luck trying to find him. Coordinates can't be tracked right now. That wish will never come true. Amid the flood of frantic complaints, Bai Qi spotted a valuable opportunity. Big shot. Are you selling food? I'll pay a high price. That message made him see a perfect business opportunity. Right. If he resold goods at double or triple the original cost, he could make a fortune. Glancing over the channel messages, then at his recycling conversion device, Bai Qi slowly wore a sly grin just like Tom the cat. This time, Bai Qi chose not to stay anonymous. He sorted screenshots of piles of food, compiled a product catalog, and listed everything on the trading market. Everyone had only been in space for a short time, and resources were extremely scarce. Even ordinary metal was a precious commodity. He decided not to hike prices excessively, only charging twice the standard value for traded materials. The trading market erupted instantly. Players who previously only possessed piles of single raw materials finally found a use for their goods. One after another, they exchanged all kinds of materials for food and drinks. A tidal wave of diverse resources poured into Bai Qi's storage compartment. His resource values surged continuously, refreshing his panel data nonstop. Leaning lazily against the sofa, Bai Qi watched the rapidly climbing resource tally and curled his lips into a cunning smile. 0. Cost conversion, reselling for profit, purely earning wealth out of thin air. While restocking goods, he browsed the trading market, searching for rare items he didn't yet own. After a short while, one listing caught his eye. Name, quality soil grade, excellent description, fertile nutrient, rich soil suitable for growing plants that are difficult to cultivate. This was exactly what he needed. He could plant the spirit, erosion tree seed he had acquired. There was no fixed buyout price listed, so he clicked on the seller's avatar and sent a private message. Bai Qi. Buddy, how much are you asking for this quality soil? The other party replied instantly, speaking extremely politely. Anonymous. It's the famous food selling expert Bai Qi. I've heard all about you. How much soil do you need? Now that he operated without anonymity, Bai Qi had become known across the galaxy thanks to his large-scale food sales. With his conversion device, Bai Qi only needed to input raw materials to sustain his own supplies. Bai Qi. Not much. I only have one seed. I just want to test out planting something small. Anonymous. Got it. I'll give you 3 caddies of soil in exchange for 3 full daily meals from you. How's that? Bai Qi agreed to the deal without hesitation. Bai Qi. Deal. I'll send you a hearty meal on time, every day. Anonymous. Thank you so much, sir. My name is Lin Yang. Can I add you as a friend? My ship is the Spirit Farm, built for planting. If you ever need anything, or if I discover rare supplies later, we can stay in touch. Bai Qi. Sure thing. He accepted the friend request. Once his ship upgraded to level 2, he would select its development path. He planned to focus fully on combat capabilities. He was not skilled in other fields, so building connections with allies specializing in different areas would open more paths for the future. After finalizing the trade and adding Lin Yang as a friend, Bai Qi continued browsing the market. His gaze landed on another item he wanted. Name, automated repair robot module grade. Fine description, frees you from manual labor. This small repair robot works tirelessly around the clock and consumes minimal energy. Its only downside is relatively slow repair speed. This module was incredibly practical and would save him countless tedious hours fixing the ship manually. Bai Qi sent another private message to inquire about the price. Bai Qi, what's your asking price? He waited several minutes for a reply. The seller must have been busy. Anonymous. Sir, do you have a star core? Bai Qi. Are you kidding me? Bai Qi was speechless. For just a slow, fine, grade repair module, the seller was demanding a star core? That was wildly overreaching. The seller quickly hurried to explain, sounding flustered. Anonymous. No, don't misunderstand me, sir. I was just asking. If you happen to have one, I can offer other valuable items alongside it for the trade. Bai Qi's eyes narrowed as he pondered. The seller needed a star core, which meant he intended to upgrade his ship. Since he had already reached level 1, he clearly had ample metal reserves, and he admitted owning other rare goods. This person held considerable assets. Bai Qi followed up with a question. What other rare items do you have? Anonymous. Quite a lot. Wait, do you really have a star core? Bai Qi replied calmly. I don't have an intact star core, but I do have a damaged one. Would you be interested? Anonymous. Ah, it's damaged. What grade is it? Bai Qi ignored the slight disappointment in the reply, fixated on that question. When he obtained the damaged star core earlier, the system had not displayed any grade information. He had assumed star cores had no grading system at all. Bai Qi immediately pressed for details. These items have grades? Why didn't the system give me any notification when I obtained mine? Anonymous. No alert? I read records from the log of an ancient wrecked spacecraft. All cosmic objects fall into 10 grades. Junk, ordinary, excellent, fine, superior, rare, epic, legendary, mythic, immortal. Only items of the lowest junk grade fail to trigger the system's grade notification. After reading the message, Bai Qi understood everything. So there were this many tiers of quality. The broken star core he found on that small planet was merely junk grade. He thought about his newly obtained recycling conversion device, already incredibly powerful despite only being rare grade. He could only imagine how overpowered epic, legendary, mythic, and immortal grade items would be. While Bai Qi was lost in thought, another message popped up. Anonymous. Sir, you still there? Bai Qi. What will you offer in exchange? Even if it's junk grade, it's still a star core, far more valuable than ordinary supplies. Anonymous. Understood. I've got 2 great items. Check their stats before you decide. Alongside the message came screenshots of 2 item descriptions. Name, energy shield grade. Excellent description, standard ship, mounted energy shield. It automatically activates in danger, blocking conventional artillery fire and space debris. Its major flaw: after the shield collapses, its next recharge time doubles. Name: Jetpack Grade. Fine description: portable propulsion device designed for space travel. Allows free movement through vacuum space. Equipped with 4 energy canisters that can be refilled using ship power. Bai Qi carefully read the attributes of both pieces of equipment, a hint of satisfaction flickering across his eyes. These were exactly the supplies he lacked at the moment, and both would prove useful. He quietly weighed whether the trade was fair. If he acquired these 2 items, he might use his conversion device to generate even more resources. However, if he began mass-producing traded goods, this seller would inevitably realize his secret. This dilemma gave him pause. After thinking for a long time, he sent another question. Bai Qi, what special capabilities does your ship have? Anonymous. Hehe. My ship is the lucky vessel. Its innate talent is great fortune. I might have better luck than most other players. Bai Qi grew excited the moment he read this. Bai Qi, send me a friend request right away. He had stumbled upon someone with a conceptual tier ability. He absolutely could not let this opportunity slip away. Building an alliance would only benefit him. He immediately sent a friend request. The other party accepted without hesitation. Her name and ship avatar loaded onto the friend list. Bai Qi enlarged her profile picture and muttered to himself. Wow, it's a young woman. Chu E. Added successfully, sir. So, do you still want these items? Bai Qi, absolutely. Using his conversion device, Bai Qi converted 10,000 units of regular metal to create the damaged star core, placed it on the trade panel, and locked the offer. Chu E wasted no time and put forward the 3 items to complete the exchange. Trade successful. Obtained. Energy shield ×1 obtained. Jetpack ×1 obtained. Automated repair robot ×1. Bai Qi, stay in touch. Let me know first whenever you find rare goods. If you need anything, come talk to me. I can source nearly all common supplies. Chu E will do. Sir, do you happen to have those things? Bai Qi, what things? Chu E. You know, daily necessities for women. Bai Qi. And so, Bai Qi sent her a large package of women's daily essentials free of charge. Once the trade concluded, Bai Qi fitted all his newly acquired equipment onto his ship. Exclusive vessel, Gambler's Vessel Level, LV. 1 durability, 56% speed, 7 currently disabled external modules, cap thruster, energy shield internal modules, small radar, automated repair robot armaments, electromagnetic railgun, dual metal cannons energy, 100% charging continuously via star core. Upgrade requirements, star core ×1, regular metal ×10, 000, advanced metal ×1, 000 evaluation. Barely qualified as a basic starship. Bai Qi frowned at the dismissive evaluation on the panel. TCH. Did the system not see the incredible equipment loaded on his ship? Tom the Cat, the legendary Jerry Mouse, and the newly arrived Ilya. This crew was top tier across the entire star system, and it only rated the ship barely qualified. Did he need to pull out a spark lens to prove its worth? Closing the panel with a huff, he partitioned off an empty section of the cargo hold. He laid down the soil and planted the spirit erosion tree seed, waiting for it to sprout. By the time he finished everything, it was already 2 in the morning. Inside the cabin's living area, Ilya sat quietly watching Tom and Jerry's usual bickering. Her long eyelashes drooped, and her eyes grew heavy. She was clearly exhausted. Bai Qi slapped his forehead and realized what he needed to do. He quickly designated a private room within the living quarters. It would not be appropriate for the young girl to share living space with him. The empty room was plain white at first, but it rapidly transformed under Bai Qi's adjustments. Warm, toned wallpaper, a soft princess bed, cute desks and chairs, and an elegant wardrobe materialized one after another. Dolls and plush cushions filled every corner. He also spent resources to order a game console, monitor, countless toys, comics and novels. They stacked up on a full bookshelf. Beyond that, he thoughtfully arranged every living amenity. An independent restroom, a separated wet and dry bathroom, and an exquisite bathtub. Every comfort he could imagine was provided. He spent nearly 5,000 units of lumber before he was satisfied and closed the control panel. As he finished the work, he felt like he was preparing a lovely home for a child. Staring at the warm, charming room, a strong sense of accomplishment welled up inside him. After hours of effort, he had finished the young girl's exclusive living space. He could not wait to see her surprise. Bai Qi turned toward Ilya, who was drowsy on the sofa, and walked over quietly. Ilya leaned against the couch, nodding off as her head bobbed up and down. She was about to fall asleep. Ilya, don't drift off. I've prepared a surprise for you. Bai Qi spoke softly, his tone tinged with pride. Ilya forced her eyes open. Her red eyes glistened with drowsiness as she looked toward him, murmuring quietly, "Brother? What surprise? Come with me and see." Bai Qi smiled and gently took her slender, soft hand. The moment their fingers touched, Ilya woke up a little more. A faint blush spread across her cheeks as she stepped lightly behind him. Tom and Jerry stopped their fight when they noticed the two leaving. Curious, they trotted after them on either side like personal attendants, wondering what new surprise awaited. Bai Qi led the group to the doorway of the brand new room and slowly pushed open the door. Warm golden light flooded the space, illuminating every delicate, cozy furnishing. The sleepiness vanished instantly from Ilya's face. She froze on the spot, her round eyes widening in shock and delight. It looked exactly like a fairy tale cottage. "Is this room for me?" Ilya tilted her head upward, her eyes sparkling, unable to hide her joy. Bai Qi raised his eyebrows proudly. "What do you think? Did brother do well? I built this princess room just for you. Tell me if there's anything else you want, and I'll arrange it right away." Ilya stared blankly at the warm space, a faint ache rising in her chest filled with warmth. Though she had been summoned by the system with set favorable feelings toward him, she remained in an unfamiliar place. Life out in space was far beyond anything she could have imagined, leaving her constantly cautious and uneasy. She never expected to find such a welcoming home amid the loneliness of deep space. The next instant, she threw herself into Bai Qi's arms. Her small body felt soft against him as she spoke in a sweet, moved voice. "Thank you, brother. I love it so much." Bai Qi gently patted the young girl's back. His heart felt sweeter than honey. "I'm glad you like it. Go rest now, don't stay up late." The girl pulled away and darted happily into the room to explore every corner. Tom and Jerry followed her, hopping around the room, curiously examining the new space. They rubbed against the plush toys now and then, looking utterly adorable. Bai Qi watched the scene, stepped out of the room, and returned to his own quarters. He laid down on his bed with a relaxed smile on his face. Orphaned from childhood, he had grown accustomed to loneliness. He never imagined he would form such bonds after being stranded in space. He might never have experienced such warmth in his old life. Compared to everything he had known before, he preferred life right now. Bai Qi closed his eyes, his heart calm and peaceful. Perhaps this sudden interstellar survival trial was never a dead end. It was the greatest stroke of luck, a new beginning for him. Night faded, and the stars shone brightly. Morning light streamed through the porthole into the room. Bai Qi slowly opened his eyes. The genuine, warm glow made him feel momentarily dazed, wondering if the past 2 days had all been a dream. He climbed out of bed, opened his door, and walked to the main control room. Far ahead hung a massive blazing star, its brilliant golden, red light sweeping away the darkness of deep space. Hearing his footsteps, Tom rolled over in his cat bed and continued sleeping soundly. Jerry acted far out of character. He had woken up early, perching on the edge of the porthole, tiny paws pressed against the glass. His round eyes stared out at the starry expanse, lost in thought. Ilya's door remained shut, quiet inside. She was clearly still asleep. Using the starlight to observe the surrounding planets, Bai Qi set a navigation route. He stepped lightly toward the planting area. The soil mound had bulged slightly, with a crack splitting the surface. Evidently, the spirit, erosion tree had a far shorter growth cycle than plants from Earth. After observing it for a while with no obvious changes to see, he turned away. He walked toward the conversion device to prepare breakfast for everyone, plus meals for Lin Yang and Chu Yi. Both of them held great potential. Chu Yi especially was worth maintaining a close alliance with. He might need their assistance sooner or later. He had just finished preparing the food when private messages suddenly lit up on his screen. 2 messages arrived one after another, sent by Chu Yi. Chu Yi. Good morning, sir. Chu Yi. I put the damaged star core into the energy slot last night. It can't be used for ship upgrades, but it generates massive energy. It's far more powerful than all the star core fragments I've collected before. Bai Qi raised an eyebrow and sent a casual voice reply. That's good. After all, I traded it to you for 3 pieces of equipment. You shouldn't come out on the losing end. Chu Yi replied almost instantly, excitement evident in her words. Chu Yi. I absolutely didn't. The ship traveled all night with barely any energy consumption. Bai Qi smiled and sent her breakfast. Chu Yi, sir? What's this? Bai Qi. I'll provide your 3 daily meals from now on. Think of it as advance payment for any rare items you find later. Chu Yi. Thank you so much. This is amazing. Bai Qi did not reply further and sent Lin Yang's breakfast as well. They exchanged a few casual words. Lin Yang asked if Bai Qi had seeds from Earth. Bai Qi planned to supply him with a steady stream over time. Once their arrangements were settled, Bai Qi knocked on Ilya's door to wake her for breakfast. "Ilya, wake up. Time for breakfast." The door blocked most sound, and he received no response, so he knocked again. After a moment, the door creaked open a small crack. Ilya stood in her pajamas, her fluffy, white hair messy. She rubbed her eyes marked with clear dark circles, her face looking worn out. She swayed slightly where she stood, still half asleep. She lifted her head and spoke in a soft, hoarse voice thick with sleep. "Good morning, brother." Bai Qi sighed. "How late did you stay up?" Hee. Ilya stuck out her tongue playfully. "There were so many fun things to enjoy. I lost track of time." "All right, go wash up. You can take a nap after eating." Looking at her adorable state, Bai Qi could not bring himself to scold her. He reached out and gently ruffled the top of her head. "Okay." Ilya nodded obediently, slipping back into her room to wash and tidy herself quickly. Shortly afterward, the young girl walked out neatly dressed, still bearing faint signs of tiredness beneath her eyes. She quietly sat down at the dining table. It was mealtime. The two little ones needed no calling and trotted over on their own to eat. As everyone dined, they watched a planet grow larger and larger within their view. The two little creatures could barely contain their excitement. They would soon be free to run and play once more. Ilya's eyes sparkled with curiosity, eager to behold unfamiliar sights. The planet continued to expand before them, gradually revealing its complete outline. Staring at the mist, shrouded celestial body, Bai Qi sighed helplessly. It was yet another lifeless dead planet, he presumed. After finishing breakfast, Bai Qi walked to the control console and adjusted the flight path. He guided the spaceship slowly toward its orbit, preparing to land and conduct exploration. The instant the craft was about to enter the planetary orbit, alarms and system notifications blared simultaneously. Unknown planet detected. Trace life signatures detected. Environment suitable for prolonged surface landing. Radar alert. An unidentified spacecraft signal detected on the planet's low orbit. Bai Qi's gaze sharpened as he looked out the viewport. On the far side of the planet, a spaceship shaped like a smoking pipe drifted into sight. As the distance closed, another radar prompt appeared. The opposing vessel requests communication. Block transmission? It seems they also have radar equipment. Do not block the channel. I'd like to hear what they have to say. The moment Bai Qi accepted the connection, a brash young male voice echoed across the communications channel. "Hey buddy, I've had my eye on this planet for ages. There are several other planets nearby. Why don't you head somewhere else?" Bai Qi's combat strength far outshone most novice explorers. He would not simply leave just because of a single line from the stranger. "Friend, this planet is enormous. You can't explore it all by yourself anytime soon. How about we split it down the middle, each taking one half?" Inside the pipe-shaped spaceship, Lin Feng listened to Bai Qi's proposal, then eyed the two dark gun turrets mounted on either side of the opposing flat vessel. A plan formed in his mind. He adopted a hearty tone and replied into the communicator. "Sounds fair, man. You're right. Let's each enter from opposite sides of the planet and search without interfering with one another. What do you say?" A cold smirk tugged at Bai Qi's lips. He thought silently. If he were an honest person, he wouldn't have tried to chase me off at first. His intentions were plain to see. Bai Qi pretended to relent, responding in an easygoing tone. "Wonderful. Let us rely on our own luck to explore." Agreed. No crossing each other's boundary. Once he finished speaking, both spaceships turned and flew towards separate sides of the planet. Quietly listening all this time, Ilya furrowed her brows. She waited until the communications cut off before voicing her confusion. "Brother, he does not seem like a good person. Are we truly going to split the planet with him?" Bai Qi ruffled her hair, not viewing the rival as any real threat. "It's fine. This planet is massive. Half of it will keep us occupied for quite a while. If he stays peaceful and leaves us alone, not competing for the planetary core, he can have all the resources on his half." His tone turned icy as he continued. "But if he harbors malicious plans and schemes against us, do not blame me for retaliating." The gambler pierced the hazy atmosphere. Faint tremors rippled through the hull as air currents brushed against the craft. The scenery outside the viewport transformed completely. Vast stretches of water spread across the land, interspersed with purple and blue vegetation. "Wow, brother, the plants here aren't green at all." Ilya leaned over to gaze at all the strange new scenery, her mouth hanging open in amazement. "Surprising, isn't it? This is my first time seeing flora like this too." Bai Qi landed the spaceship, stowed it inside a hoi capsule, and tucked the capsule into his storage belt. Only then did he turn to observe this extraordinary planet. Flowers and trees were sparse, nowhere near as dense as the plant life on Blue Star. They dotted the landscape in scattered clusters, yet every single specimen grew to staggering sizes. Dozens of meters tall purple, veined giant trees rose skyward with canopies that blotted out the clouds. Even the small blossoms and grasses visible from high altitude stood twice Baiqi's height, an uncanny, breathtaking sight. The two little ones went wild with joy, scrambling and darting effortlessly among these giant flowers and ancient trees. Soon they coaxed the curious, playful Ilya to climb the enormous trees as well. The three frolicked loudly amid the colossal plant life. Baiqi stood rooted to the spot, watching this absurd yet lively scene. He shook his head and sighed inwardly. What kind of bizarre world was this? Still, seeing the three laugh so freely lifted his spirits. He sat beneath the tree where they played and opened a private chat channel. "You there, buddy? I found an unusual planet covered in gigantic plants. Interested?" After typing the message, Baiqi attached several screenshots and sent them over. A few minutes later, replies flooded the private channel. Lin Yang. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. Send me more. Lin Yang. Good heavens. Look at those trunks and their shape. One such tree must equal dozens of ordinary plants from Blue Star. Baiqi frowned and asked in confusion. Even if you get many of them, will your ship have enough storage space? Great leader, you don't know. My innate talent is microscopic pastoral land. It isn't fully leveled up yet, but its unique ability lets me cultivate all kinds of unusual vegetation. He followed up by sending 2 real-time photos. In the images, a stocky young man with black, rimmed glasses stood beside growing racks. What lay before him stunned Baiqi, overturning all common sense. Layer upon layer of planting racks rose in staggered tiers, the exact opposite of the giant vegetation on this planet. The sprawling vertical racks formed a miniature world of farmland. Countless plants were shrunk down to tiny sizes, all contained within a limited space. Baiqi stared at the miniature farmland, then glanced back at the towering vegetation behind him. Stunned by the stark contrast, he paused for a moment before typing 2 words. That's incredibly impressive. In the private chat, Lin Yang sent a bashful laughing emoji and quickly responded. Lin Yang. Hee, you flatter me. Rest assured, great leader. I will take any strange plants you gather. Baiqi closed the chat window and stood. He looked up at the towering purple, veined giant tree beside him, ready to begin harvesting. Since his spaceship was stored on his person, he could access the material exchange device anytime. He pulled out a chainsaw and pressed it against the tree's base to cut. The next instant, the sharp screech of metal against wood echoed out. The expected clean cut never came. The sharp alloy chain bit into the purple bark, sending a shower of sparks flying. A powerful recoil knocked the chainsaw away. The chain snapped entirely. Baiqi nearly lost his balance from the force. Not even a faint scratch remained on the tree trunk where he had sawed. A giant question mark hung invisibly above his head. Refusing to accept defeat, he summoned several more chainsaws and tried cutting from different angles. Every attempt yielded the same result. After repeated failures, Baiqi's spirit crumbled. He slowly crouched down, staring blankly at the ground and drawing aimless circles in the dirt with his finger. The commotion drew Ilya over quickly, along with Tom and Jerry. Seeing Baiqi's dejected state, Ilya hurried to his side and asked worriedly, "Brother, what's wrong?" Without lifting his head, Baiqi gestured toward the giant tree, his tone utterly defeated. "I'm useless. I can't even cut down a tree." Ilya looked toward the tree and spotted the broken chainsaws scattered on the ground. She understood instantly. She reached up and patted Baiqi's head to comfort him. "It's all right, brother. There is still a long road ahead. Leave this to me now." Ilya puffed out her chest confidently. She pulled a yellowed card printed with a swordsman illustration from the storage belt Baiqi had given her. She pressed the card against the ground. Fantasy summoning. The clear young shout rang out. Enormous magical power surged skyward. A glowing magic circle bloomed beneath her feet, rising higher than her head. Blinding white light erupted, swallowing her figure. When the radiance reached its peak, a tide of magic rippled outward, sending Baiqi, Tom, and Jerry stumbling sideways. As the violent shockwave spread, the white glow slowly faded and the surging magical energy calmed. Ilya stood transformed where she had been. She wore polished white armor that clung neatly to her frame, sharp and elegant. Her fluffy white hair was tied high with a large black bow, giving her a crisp, valiant look. In her slender grasp rested a dazzling golden longsword. The young girl stood motionless at the center of the magical storm, straight and dignified, radiating holiness and resolve. Even Baiqi, who had witnessed a similar transformation in animation, was utterly stunned watching this magnificent display unfold in person. Tom and Jerry wore identical stunned expressions beside him. Once the transformation finished, Ilya lightly raised her hand and shook the sword. Hum. A clear, resonant sword hum echoed far across the open land. She glanced toward the purple, veined giant tree that had resisted every cutting attempt Bai Qi made. Her feet pushed off the ground, and her small figure shot forward as a streak of white light. No unnecessary movements. Ilya twisted her wrist and swept the gilded sword down. A streak of gold sliced through the air and landed silently on the thick, unyielding trunk. The next second, crack. The giant trunk, impervious to all of Bai Qi's efforts, split cleanly along the golden sword mark as if it were thin paper. Ilya did not stop. Her white figure darted back and forth, golden flashes striking again and again. More than 10 massive trees toppled toward the ground. Before the trees finished falling, Ilya had already returned to Bai Qi's side. She sheathed her sword and looked at the stunned young man, speaking softly. Brother, will these be enough? Spotting the eager glint in Ilya's eyes, waiting for praise, Bai Qi set aside his earlier frustration. He reached out and ruffled her hair gently, his voice warm and affectionate. More than enough. Our Ilya is amazing. You solved this big trouble for me. Receiving his compliment and head pat made Ilya's eyes crinkle, and a sweet smile spread across her face. White light flickered. Her armor and sword dissolved into glowing motes, flowing back into her body. She returned to her usual soft, cute appearance. Watching everything unfold, Tom and Jerry quickly copied Ilya's actions. They pressed random objects into the dirt, grabbed wooden sticks of suitable length, and started their own fencing match. Bai Qi and Ilya laughed watching the two little rascals. Turning away from their playful bickering, Bai Qi's smile faded. He strode forward to collect the massive tree trunks. Item name, Giant Taxus Tier, excellent. Evaluation, high, quality crafting material. Abandoned by civilizations of the past due to extreme harvesting difficulty and an exceedingly slow growth cycle. Bai Qi fully agreed with the assessment. Ordinary machinery could not leave so much as a scratch, making harvesting far too costly. No wonder they fell out of use. He carefully selected 5 of the finest Taxus trunks and placed them into his storage belt. All remaining timber was traded to Lin Yang. After a brief exchange of words, Bai Qi led the group to find suitable blasting sites. He planned to repeat the method he had once used to obtain a planetary core. However, this planet was more than twice the size of the previous world he had visited. Its landmass stretched far wider, with vegetation scattered sparsely across the terrain. Locating the planetary core would undoubtedly consume immense time and energy. On the opposite side of the planet, Lin Feng leaned against a giant Taxus tree with a pipe in his mouth. His face darkened, blue veins bulging faintly on his forehead, as suppressed rage boiled inside him. The standard laser sword in his hand flickered dimly, nearly drained of power. Yet after slashing repeatedly, he had only managed to carve faint marks into the tough bark, dealing negligible damage. Damn it, what kind of planet is this? Even trees are impossibly hard. How am I supposed to gather resources? Lin Feng muttered angrily, overwhelmed by bitter frustration. His supplies were already scarce, and his ship's energy reserves were nearly exhausted. He could not afford to travel to another planet. He had stumbled upon this life-sign planet by chance, his only shot to turn his fortunes around. He had come hoping for luck. Now he faced the possibility of leaving empty-handed, all his efforts for nothing. Bitterness, envy, anxiety, and despair flooded his mind, steadily eroding his rationality. He stared toward the direction where Bai Qi's ship had gone. Greed and malice swirled in his eyes as he murmured to himself, I wish I could remain an honest person if given the chance. But there is no other choice now. Don't blame me then. Fortune favors the bold, the weak get left behind. As the planet rotated, night fell quietly. Bai Qi stared at the countless craters covering the ground and frowned with quiet disappointment. He had thought planetary cores would be easy to find, yet his previous discovery had been pure luck. After blasting all day, he had not found a single planetary core. Even metal or deposits were extremely rare. The day's gains were minimal. The sky darkened further, visibility fading rapidly. He called over the worn out Ilya and the 2 little ones, summoned the spaceship to set up camp, and prepared a hearty dinner to reward everyone after a long day of work. Once all arrangements were finished, Bai Qi finally had time to rest. He lay in the bathtub inside his cabin and casually opened the Galaxy public chat channel to browse updates from other players, hoping to learn about the current state of interstellar survival. The channel buzzed with constant messages. Man, I ran into robbers today calling themselves the Void Marauders. I barely escaped thanks to my ship's speed. It would have been disastrous if I got caught. Don't even mention it. I met Void Marauders too. Luckily my vessel came with basic weaponry. I charged straight through their attack and blew their ship up. I even looted a damaged planetary core from the wreckage. Total windfall. I'm jealous. Still, I had a good day. I found a planet made almost entirely of ore. Finally, I have a steady supply of metal. No more trading with Leader Bai Chi. I dug up metal today as well. I deployed 5 automated miners. I should be able to upgrade my ship tomorrow. Reading the messages, Bai Chi clicked his tongue. Many players now possessed reliable metal sources. That trade avenue was drying up. It seemed he would have to rely on his converter device to operate as a universal merchant from now on. Bai Chi was already quite well known among survivors. His goods had earned him widespread recognition, and countless players were grateful to him. He had configured the converter machine to automatically list every item in the trade hub at double market value. Nearly all common goods found on Blue Star were available for purchase. Indeed, Bai Chi listed everything. While he could not restore humanity to its old way of life, he provided food, drinks, alcohol, tobacco, toilet paper, toothpaste, shampoo, and basic medical supplies. Even if Bai Chi chose to take it easy and stop exploring later, he could sustain himself indefinitely with this trade. Unless other survivors discovered planets similar to Blue Star, his goods would remain completely one of a kind. Looking at the sleek white machine, he felt a deep sense of reassurance. He was content to keep offering these small conveniences for others, making their harsh lives slightly more bearable. Most were everyday necessities, yet it was his modest contribution toward his fellow humans. Building goodwill might prove useful someday. Night deepened, and silence enveloped the entire planet. Amid the quiet, thin white smoke began rising from nowhere, slowly thickening into mist. Within moments, thick white fog spread across most of the region, enveloping 100 meters around the gambler. Dense haze blurred all vision and muffled sound. Hidden deep within the mist loomed the pipe-shaped small spacecraft, appearing eerie amid the darkness. Worse still, the gambler's ship, trapped in the center of the fog, could not detect the approaching craft. Its onboard radar failed completely, emitting no warning alerts whatsoever. Inside the bathroom, Bai Chi stretched comfortably. He climbed out, dried himself off, slipped on loose soft pajamas, and walked toward the ship's main hall. Soft lights filled the hall. Worn out after a full day, Tom, Jerry, and Ilya lay sprawled across the cushioned sofas, breathing gently in sleep. Watching the 3 slumber peacefully, warmth spread across Bai Chi's face. He stepped lightly, careful not to wake them. He leaned down and gently lifted Ilya into his arms. The young girl slept soundly, her head resting lightly on his shoulder. Her eyelashes fluttered slightly. She looked utterly adorable. Bai Chi carried her slowly to her private room, tucked her into bed, turned off the lights, and closed the door. Every movement was gentle and quiet. He left Tom and Jerry where they rested and returned to his own cabin. He yawned tiredly as he sat on the edge of his bed, waiting for midnight, when the daily talent lottery would reset. He still lacked many vital resources. Most importantly, his personal combat power remained far too weak. So far, every dangerous encounter had relied on companions, equipment, and items to keep him safe. His own personal stats had never improved. He hoped to draw something that boosted his attributes today. This thought reminded him of Chu Yi's extraordinary luck. He hoped to borrow some of that fortune. He tapped the screen to open their private chat and typed a line to Chu Yi. Asleep yet? The message was barely sent for 2 seconds before a near-instant reply appeared. Not yet. What's up, Brother Bai? Seeing the new nickname, 3 invisible question marks appeared above Bai Chi's head. Brother Bai? Haha. Calling you great leader all the time feels distant. Brother Bai sounds friendlier. You can tell me if you don't like it, and I'll pick another nickname. Bai Chi quickly responded. No need to change it. This one works fine. By the way, Brother Bai, why messaged me so late? Bai Chi replied jokingly. My luck's been terrible lately. Thought chatting with you might let me borrow a little of your good fortune. Once he sent the text, the chat window fell silent. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. The expected instant reply never came. In his cabin, Bai Chi raised an eyebrow. He wondered if Chu Yi had fallen asleep or become busy with something else. So he waited patiently. He had no idea that on the other side of the screen, Chu Yi stared at his message, lost deep in thought. Inside the luck vessel, Yi stared at the floating light screen, her fingertips tensing slightly as she prepared to type. A faint blush crept across her fair cheeks. Her eyes widened, her mind thrown into utter turmoil with wandering thoughts. Brother Bai stays up late just to chat with me, saying he wants to borrow my good fortune. But luck isn't something you can simply lend to another person. This is clearly just an excuse he made up to talk to me without being upfront about his intentions. Countless thoughts swirled chaotically inside Yi's head, like several inner voices bickering endlessly as she fell into overthinking every small detail. The lonely, monotonous journey through deep space already magnified every faint emotion buried in her heart. And now her feelings were spiraling completely out of control. Flustered beyond measure, she abruptly stood and hurried over to the full-length mirror. She shifted her posture back and forth, subconsciously examining her own appearance. She fretted silently over whether she looked attractive enough, whether she was worthy enough to stand beside Brother Bai. The second she realized what she was doing, her face burned bright red in an instant. What on earth are you doing, E? She stumbled backward and flopped onto her bed, burying her scorching face deep into the soft quilt while her heart hammered violently against her ribs. She tapped open Bai Chi's profile picture, unable to tear her gaze away from his handsome avatar. Brother Bai was gentle, reliable, exceptionally outstanding among all the players, and incredibly powerful too. We have barely spent any time together, yet would it be too hasty to develop feelings this fast? If I reply too readily, will I seem too forward and eager? After this messy internal brainstorming session, her fingers danced frantically across the text box without a single rational thought. Before she knew it, she typed out 2 words and hit send automatically. Inside the gambler's vessel, Bai Chi had been waiting for ages. With midnight drawing near, he assumed he had fallen asleep and was about to close the chat window. Right at that moment, a red notification popped up beside the conversation thread. A short, blunt message appeared on screen, striking him straight to the core. Not interested. Bai Chi. These 2 short words left Bai Chi utterly dumbfounded. What was going on? Where did this bizarre turn of events come from? How did I get rejected out of nowhere? Before Bai Chi could type out a question, a flood of follow-up messages rapidly filled the private chat box. No, that's not what I meant. I only meant things are moving far too quickly. Matters like this ought to take things slow and steady. I can lend you some of my luck for now, though. You're the only person I'll share it with. I'm worn out and heading to bed now. Bai Chi stared at the string of messages, caught between amusement and helplessness. What in the world was all this about? He only wanted to leech off a little bit of her lucky aura, nothing more. Did things really have to spiral this absurdly? This late night exchange even sent a faint flutter through his own chest. Bai Chi shook his head sharply to clear away those distracting sentiments. Women are nothing but a distraction that slows me down in critical moments. Midnight had officially arrived. Pushing all random thoughts aside, he summoned the prize wheel with a thought, and rubbed his palms together before tapping the draw button. The wheel spun at high speed before gradually grinding to a halt. Compressed purified water times 20 portable nutrient paste times 15 premium fertilizer times 5. Staring at the 3 awarded items, Bai Chi could only stare blankly in resignation. Calm down, calm down. I still have 1 more draw left for the ship's wheel. Obtained. Automated cleaning robot who dumped this junk into my prize pool. Just as expected, I couldn't siphon any luck and my terrible luck stayed completely unchanged. Letting the frustration fade, Bai Chi closed the lottery interface, set up the cleaning robot, spread the fertilizer across the soil where his spirit-eroding tree was planted, then switched off the lights to rest. Night slipped by in the blink of an eye. Bai Chi woke up right on schedule, tidied himself up quickly, then stepped out of his spacecraft alongside Ilya, Tom and Jerry to resume searching for star cores. The moment he stepped past the airlock, a thick blanket of white fog washed over him. The entire landscape was swallowed by dense mist, limiting visibility drastically. Everything more than 10 meters away was blurred and indistinct. He had noticed the fog the previous night, yet instead of dispersing overnight, it had only grown thicker and heavier. This fog is awfully strange. He pulled up his status panel, confirming all vital readings remained normal. Bai Chi frowned deeply, a strange sense of unease settling in his chest. Stick close to me, especially you two, Tom and Jerry. Don't run off chasing distractions and get separated. Something feels really off. He tried convincing himself that the planet's erratic climate naturally spawned long-lasting heavy fog. Still, he could not afford to halt his star core search because of this mist. Let's head out. Stay vigilant as we keep looking for star cores. After issuing his warning, he stored his spacecraft away, took Ilya's hand, and ventured into the boundless white fog alongside the 2 small creatures. The white mist hung deathly silent across the wilderness. The woodland was eerily quiet. Not even the rustle of wind through leaves could be heard. At first, the group huddled tightly together with minimal space between each other. But as they ventured deeper into the thick forest, the heavy fog eroded their vision and scrambled their sense of direction, lowering visibility even further. In the split second Baichi's attention wandered, the tiny figures of Tom and Jerry vanished entirely from his sight. Panicked, Baichi and Ilya shouted repeatedly, calling out the pair's names. Yet the fog seemed to muffle all sound. No replies came no matter how loud they called. Mid-search, Baichi tripped over an unseen obstacle and stumbled forward. When he steadied his balance and lifted his head, Ilya had also disappeared without a trace. In just a few brief moments, the four-person party had been scattered without a single sound. Alone amid the white haze, Baichi's nerves went taut with alarm. Ilya? Tom? Jerry? He called out urgently. No response echoed back through the slowly drifting fog, the oppressive silence stirring cold dread in his bones. He quickly retrieved his spacecraft using a universal capsule, hoping to use the vessel's systems to track down his companions. But Lin Feng had been lying in wait this entire time, never intending to let him succeed. The instant the gambler's vessel touched the ground, and Baichi reached for the cabin door, a sharp whistling sound cut through the stagnant air, jarringly loud in the deathly quiet surroundings. Whoom! Every hair on Baichi's body stood on end. Instinct screaming of mortal danger, he jerked his hand back and twisted sideways to dodge. A razor-sharp streak of azure light sliced past the back of his hand a split second later. It had missed, severing his wrist by the narrowest margin possible. Baichi landed and retreated another few paces to put some distance between himself and the hidden foe. He drew his revolver and gripped it firmly. His gaze locked hard on the thick fog ahead as every nerve in his body tensed to its breaking point. He recognized that sound and that distinctive beam shape perfectly. It was identical to a lightsaber from the movies. All the pieces clicked into place. This was no natural meteorological phenomenon. It was an enemy ability. What is this? We had an agreement not to interfere with one another. Baichi spoke aloud, hoping to bait the opponent into responding and reveal their position. Instead, the enemy's voice echoed from shifting directions within the fog. There is no point in struggling. Accept your fate and die quietly. I am the absolute ruler within my fog domain. Arrogant and taunting words weighed heavy on Baichi's mind, filling him with grave apprehension. Not only could he not pinpoint his attacker's location, even if he did manage to lock onto them, his notoriously unreliable revolver might not even fire when he pulled the trigger. A heavy sense of powerlessness washed over him. His worst fears had come true. He'd worried last night about his own lacking combat strength, relying entirely on his allies for protection. Stranded alone in peril, he possessed no real means to defend himself. He never imagined this worst-case scenario would unfold so abruptly, merely one night later, catching him completely off guard. Only one viable option remained. He abandoned the spacecraft sitting meters away. The vessel was bound to him exclusively, so no intruder could board it as long as he stayed alive. His top priority was simple: survive. Without hesitation, Baichi spun around, picked a random direction into the fog, and sprinted for his life. Wind howled in his ears as he pushed his legs to their absolute limit, darting through the dense mist at maximum speed. With one hand raised on his revolver, he squeezed the trigger intermittently toward the swirling fog layers. The inconsistent gunfire served two purposes: probing for the enemy's location and buying himself a slim fighting chance to escape. Bang, 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 bang. Sporadic gunshots boomed inside the fog, but the bullets vanished into the white haze without any visible reaction or feedback. Baichi gasped for air, his chest burning fiercely, yet he dared not slow his pace for even a second. If he exhausted his stamina completely, there would be no way to save himself. As he ran onward, the fog ahead suddenly thinned into an open clearing, where the massive silhouette of an enormous yew tree loomed into view. Luckily, Baichi's stamina had already begun fading, slowing his pace. Otherwise, he would have crashed headfirst into the trunk and injured himself, sealing his fate without any enemy intervention. The moment he spotted the giant tree, a vivid memory flashed through his mind. When they first arrived on this planet, Tom, Jerry, and Ilya had climbed this tree to play atop its thick branches. A sudden solution dawned on him in that split second. He stowed his revolver without delay, surged forward toward the tree trunk, dug his fingers into the rough bark, and pushed off the trunk in a sharp leap. Despite the stinging pain in his palms, bracing his arms and shifting his footing methodically, he scaled the massive tree rapidly using its thick knots and protruding branches. Driven by the threat of death, his movements were sharp, fluid, and unhesitating, as if an inner reserve of strength had awakened within him. In a matter of seconds, Bai Qi pulled himself onto a thick horizontal main branch sturdy enough to support his weight, pulling him out of the vulnerable ground-level battlefield. He steadied his posture, raised his revolver once more, and aimed steadily at the only path leading up the tree. Recalling his frantic climb sent a shudder of relief through him. He had no formal tree climbing skill whatsoever. Pure survival instinct had guided every movement. Coupled with the tree's immense size, coarse bark, and countless natural handholds, he had escaped danger by the skin of his teeth. He would have never managed to climb a regular tree no matter how hard he tried. Regardless, the outcome was favorable. For the first time since the ambush began, he could catch his breath. Beneath the tree inside the fog, Lin Feng halted his pursuit. Through the billowing white mist, he clearly spotted the figure perched on the upper branches. Watching Bai Qi scramble up the tree in a frantic, monkey-like scramble, the malice on Lin Feng's face froze, replaced by stunned disbelief. He had planned for every possible outcome, yet never anticipated his target would climb upward for refuge. Lin Feng was now stuck with no viable counterplay. If he tried climbing the tree to attack, his figure would be exposed to Bai Qi's gunfire, and he would be the one killed instead. A cold smirk slowly spread across Lin Feng's face as a new plan formed. Bai Qi had left his spacecraft behind, cutting off his access to stored supplies. He could simply wait him out here. No human could go forever without water or food. The moment Bai Qi climbed back down from the tree out of desperation, he would be at Lin Feng's mercy. He paid no mind to the young girl and two small creatures who had gotten separated from Bai Qi, writing them off as irrelevant nuisances. Bai Qi would have laughed if he could hear the enemy's thoughts. After all, he was the weakest member of their entire group. If Ilya, Tom, or Jerry tracked him down first, Lin Feng would be the one begging for mercy instead. Time ticked away second by second. Seated on the tree branch, Bai Qi kept his revolver aimed rigidly at the single upward climbing path. Even as his arms ached and grew sore, he never wavered his aim for an instant. Lin Feng stood silently hidden within the fog below, his gaze cold and murderous, fixed unblinkingly on the man up in the tree. While the two were locked in this stalemate, a faint, frigid wisp of magic flickered briefly within the fog, unnoticed by either combatant. After getting separated from Bai Qi, Ilya had wandered trapped inside the mist this entire time. But the soul contract binding her to Bai Qi continuously sent sharp warning signals pulsing through her soul. Waves of overwhelming dread crashed over her repeatedly, crystal clear and impossible to ignore. Her brother was in mortal danger right now. Something's wrong. Ilya clenched her small hands tightly, muttering quietly to herself with a tremor in her voice. The soul's alarm grew more intense by the second, and a black magic circle bloomed silently beneath her feet. In an instant, her entire aura shifted entirely. Her youthful, innocent aura faded away, replaced by a frigid, lethal killing presence. Thin tendrils of black mist coiled around her body, reshaping her casual clothes into a tight dark off-shoulder bandage outfit that clung neatly to her small frame with sharp, streamlined lines. A slender dagger materialized in her palm, while a black cloak flapped wildly without any wind to stir it. A black hood lowered to cover her head, embedded on its left side with a grotesque white skull mask that amplified an air of eeriness. Beneath the hood, only a pair of icy magenta eyes remained visible. Assassin, the assassin class, fully unleashed. In an instant, she perceived every detail hidden within the fog with perfect clarity. Lin Feng's fog-based abilities were rendered completely useless against her assassin class traits. Her vision pierced through the thick, white haze, laying bare every movement, aura trace, and hidden presence in her surroundings. She pinpointed Bai Qi's position immediately, alongside the deadly killing intent. Lin Feng directed upward toward him from the ground below. "You will not hurt my brother." The words had barely left her mouth before Ilya's figure blurred, dissolving into a thick cloud of black smoke that vanished into the white fog without a trace. "Are you still down there?" Perched on the tree branch, Bai Qi kept talking non-stop to draw a reaction, confirming whether his enemy remained rooted at the tree base. "Say something if you're there. I only want to hear your story before things end here. What kind of work did you do back on Blue Planet? I truly believe people ought to hold compassion in their hearts. We should not abandon our basic morality just because we've been transported to another world. Do you understand what I'm saying? We all received standardized moral education back home. Didn't we learn that human nature is inherently kind as children? I'm sure some goodness still lingers deep inside you. What do you think?" Lin Feng's temples throbbed with mounting rage listening to Bai Qi's endless rambling, until he finally snapped. "Enough with your preaching. Shut up." The second the shout left his lips, Lin Feng was seized by a piercing sensation of being locked onto by countless icy stares. A sharp, primal danger prickling every inch of his skin. Before he could process what was happening, lethal hostility erupted directly behind him. A wisp of black smoke shot out from the side fog, moving so fast it left nothing but a fleeting afterimage. Lin Feng's pupils constricted in pure terror. He had no time to activate his lightsaber for defense before a freezing blade swiped across the space in front of his body. The gap in speed between them was insurmountable. Whoom! The sharp dagger pressed firmly against his throat, emitting a low resonant hum from the blade's vibration. Cold, killing intent emanated from the weapon, pinning Lin Feng completely still. The smallest twitch of his body would slice his jugular open instantly. Two black chains materialized right after, coiling around his wrists and ankles with sentient precision to bind his limbs fully, stripping him of all ability to resist. The entire sequence unfolded seamlessly. One moment Lin Feng was the hunter in full control of the battlefield. The next, he was a helpless captive waiting for judgment. Lin Feng stiffened entirely, his breath catching in his throat as he stared in stunned disbelief at the small cloaked figure standing before him. He never imagined his carefully laid ambush and fog abilities would be dismantled in an instant by this harmless-looking young girl. As Lin Feng's restraints locked into place, the dense white fog gradually dispersed. Up in the tree, Bai Qi watched the confrontation resolve and let out a long breath of relief. The tension coiled in his muscles unwound at last, and he lowered his throbbing arms slowly. Ilia's eyes remained cold and sharp, the dagger pressed steadily against Lin Feng's throat. One single thought from her would be enough to end the enemy's life. Yet several tense seconds passed, and the blade never advanced even a fraction closer to his skin. Violent killing intent churned restlessly in her magenta pupils, tangled with clear hesitation and conflict. Though her assassin class altered her temperament slightly, she was still a child with an uncorrupted, pure heart at her core. Defending her brother and fighting enemies was one thing, but personally taking another person's life was far too cruel a burden for the 10-year-old girl to bear. Beyond the emotional weight she could process, her frigid killing aura faded little by little, and the small hand gripping the dagger began to tremble faintly. Bai Qi observed every flicker of conflict on her face from his elevated vantage point and understood her struggle instantly. As a citizen raised with standard moral education on Blue Planet, he could not bring himself to stand by while a person was killed in cold blood, least of all letting a child carry the psychological weight of a kill for his sake. This enemy had struck first to kill him, so retribution was unavoidable. But Ilia should never have to stain her conscience with blood and carry the trauma of taking a life for his safety. With this thought settled, Bai Qi spoke down to her in a soft, gentle tone. "That's enough, Ilia. You don't need to kill him. Merely keep him restrained." Hearing her brother's voice, Ilia's rigid posture relaxed at once, all inner turmoil fading away. She only tightened the magical chains to hold Lin Feng securely immobile without further harm. Satisfied the threat was contained, Bai Qi climbed down from the tree with careful hand and foot placements. The moment his feet touched the ground, he strode forward, his gaze icy as he scanned Lin Feng's form head to toe. This man had nearly gotten him killed moments earlier. Bai Qi wasted no time roughly searching every pocket and utility belt on Lin Feng's body, stripping every storage space clean of its contents. He took the lightsaber alongside all of Lin Feng's limited food supplies, leaving nothing behind. Lin Feng's stockpile of resources was already sparse to begin with, and now he was left with absolutely nothing. Still, Bai Qi suspected there might be hidden items stowed in undiscovered spots on his person. Once this search concluded, Bai Qi stepped back and raised his revolver once more, pressing the black muzzle directly to Lin Feng's forehead. "Get out of my sight. I never want to see you again. I'm warning you. If you so much as glance back before you're out of my line of sight, I'll put an end to you right here." Bai Qi spoke in a stern tone, yet it was nothing more than empty bravado. He was not even certain his revolver would fire, and starting a gunfight at such close quarters was far too risky. For one thing, he feared the man might have hidden trump cards to unleash in a desperate last stand. Leaving him an escape route and avoiding pushing him to the brink was the only way to prevent a mutually destructive fight. Trapped and stripped of every advantage, Lin Feng's eyes burned with resentment and humiliation, yet he dared not resist in the slightest. Ilia's earlier display of overwhelming power had crushed all his arrogance. He had never expected to walk away alive. He had seen the young girl's expression back then, and figured his life had been spared solely out of consideration for her feelings. A bitter taste welled up in his throat. When had he sunk this low? Was it the moment his energy reserves began to run dry? Gritting his teeth, he stiffly turned around and trudged slowly into the distance, his mind tangled with chaotic thoughts. The instant Lin Feng's back was fully turned toward him, completely defenseless, Bai Qi moved with lightning speed. He stepped sideways and pulled Ilya firmly into his arms. One hand pressed gently against the little girl's head, pressing her face tight against his torso to shield her eyes from the gruesome scene about to unfold. Cover your ears and don't lift your head. His quiet instruction spoken, every trace of warmth vanished from Bai Qi's eyes, leaving only icy, unyielding resolve. He held nothing back any longer, raising his gun toward Lin Feng's back and squeezing the trigger repeatedly in a frantic flurry. Click, click, bang, click, bang. Are you kidding me? I pulled the trigger more than a dozen times, and only 2 shots actually went off. Still, those 2 rounds packed enough force to grant Lin Feng a relatively painless death. Lin Feng's body crumpled heavily to the ground in the distance, twitching twice before falling motionless. Once he confirmed the man was thoroughly dead, Bai Qi let out a slow breath and loosened his hold on Ilya. He lifted a hand to stroke the top of her head softly. It's all over now. Ilya kept her head lowered, clutching the hem of Bai Qi's clothes tightly and forgetting to revert from her transformed state entirely. She hung her head in quiet dejection, her magenta eyes dull with remorse weighing heavy on her heart. I'm so sorry, brother. I'm so useless. Pressed against his chest, she could clearly feel his racing heartbeat and trembling body right before he fired the gun. She understood all too well. Just like herself once had, he had been scared and shaken in that moment. Guilt washed over her in waves. If she had sensed the danger sooner, she would never have been cornered into scrambling up a tree in panic and desperation, nor forced to take a life with her own hands. Hearing her muffled, tearful apology, Bai Qi's chest ached sharply as he hurried to soothe her gently. Silly girl, none of this is your fault. He knelt down to meet her gaze at eye level, his voice soft and patient as he eased her guilt little by little. That opponent targeted us specifically, and his missed even blocked our ship's detection systems. I didn't foresee the threat from the very start either, remember? You did wonderfully. You rushed to my aid the second trouble arose. You're the one who saved me. How could you ever be useless? He brushed his fingertips lightly across her cool cheek. You mean the world to me. That's why I've always tried to keep you away from violence and killing. Even when you grow older, I will never force you into anything you dislike or refuse to do. As long as you stay safe and happy, that is more than enough for me. Let go of that guilt now, all right? Ilya lifted her head, glistening tears pooling in her wet magenta eyes as she stared up at Bai Qi's sincere, tender expression. The sorrow and guilt in her heart gradually faded, replaced by warmth, and she nodded firmly. Spotting the tears teetering on her lashes, Bai Qi raised a finger to wipe them away gently. Watching the young girl calm down, he tugged on a faint smile and coaxed her softly. Dry your tears now. There's no more danger. Go find Tom and Jerry. Those 2 carefree troublemakers are probably having the time of their lives somewhere. At the mention of the pair's usual antics, Ilya's tears vanished in an instant, the last weight lifting from her heart. Dark mist swirled around her form as she pinpointed the 2 creatures' location before dispelling her transformation. Returning to her original soft, childlike appearance with only faint redness lingering around her eyes. She murmured a quiet, okay, then trotted off into the distance, calling Tom and Jerry's names in a small voice. Bai Qi watched her figure vanish into the woods and verified she was safe before collecting his thoughts and walking over to Lin Feng's corpse. He knelt down to inspect the body, finding no dropped supplies or loot of any kind. After that, he followed the path Lin Feng had fled along. It was not long before a small spaceship came into view. Pitch black and shaped like a smoking pipe, this was Lin Feng's pipe vessel. Bai Qi walked up beneath the hull. With its owner deceased, he could use his system to seize access permissions for the craft. A crisp system chime echoed barely a dozen seconds later. Permission cracked successfully. Scanning unclaimed vessel. Binding new owner in progress. Binding complete. A soft mechanical click sounded, and the ship's hatch slowly lifted open. The cabin interior was cramped and compact, comparable to the gambler's vessel in its original, unupgraded state. Vessel name, Pipe Vessel. Rank, LV.1. Durability, 86%. Speed, 10 currently disabled. External module, Smoke Generator. Internal module, Mini Radar. Armaments, none. Energy reserves, 6%. Upgrade requirements, 1-star core, 10,000 common metal shards, 1,000 high-grade metal shards. Description, emits dense smoke capable of obstructing low-tier scanning devices, though continuous activation rapidly drains energy reserves. Only individuals with a matching innate talent retain clear vision within the fog. All others will be blinded by their own smokescreen. Recycle vessel? Bai Qi frowned slightly as he studied the vessel's stat panel. Overall, this craft was poorly suited for combat purposes, though its base speed was decent, marking it as a dedicated reconnaissance ship. Its only valuable feature was the smoke generator. He understood that player abilities and starship systems drew from the same fundamental power source and complemented one another perfectly. This explained how Lin Feng had executed such flawless ambushes and stealth attacks. Unfortunately, Bai Qi lacked Lin Feng's unique talent. Activating the smoke generator would only shroud himself in impenetrable haze. He hesitated over his next move. Should he keep the ship stored away or dismantle it for materials? He had no way of knowing what resources recycling would yield. The payout would hardly be worthwhile if it only granted basic raw materials. After weighing his options, he gathered all stored supplies from inside the ship, sealed the hatch shut, and stowed the pipe vessel safely inside a universal capsule for later consideration. He slipped the capsule into his utility belt before heading off in the direction Ilya had left. He had not traveled far when Ilya came running toward him alongside Tom and Jerry. The two animals were covered in grime with messy fur, yet they showed no signs of panic whatsoever, retaining their naturally fearless, easygoing demeanor. "Brother," a bright grin spread across Ilya's face at the sight of Bai Qi, as if the terrifying events of earlier had already faded from her mind entirely. Bai Qi was glad to see her recover so quickly. With his whole group assembled, Bai Qi gazed out toward the distant landscape. Now came the real work, digging for star cores. He summoned his gambler's vessel and led the others to what appeared to be the planetary core region. "All right, Tom, Jerry, time to show me what you two are really capable of." Tom immediately puffed out his small chest with a proud look. Reaching behind his back, he pulled out a bomb and hurled it far into the pit. Bai Qi's eyes widened sharply the moment he caught sight of it. This was not the standard black spherical bombs the creature normally used. He narrowed his eyes to get a clear look, and the three bold black letters printed across the red bomb's casing sent a chill racing down his spine. He grabbed Ilya by the collar and dragged her backward at top speed. "Damn it, that's TNT." Boom. Far beyond the planet's atmosphere, in the void of outer space, an elegantly streamlined spacecraft glided steadily closer to the planetary orbit. Inside the cockpit, a woman dressed in a long pure black dress stared down at a floating holographic star chart, tapping her fingertips against the control panel. "That's strange." She furrowed her brows and muttered quietly, confusion lacing her tone. "I clearly detected a surge of magical energy earlier, so why has the signal vanished all of a sudden?" She heaved a soft sigh, weariness and dejection settling over her features. Her ship and innate talent were next to useless if she could not locate someone wielding magical power. She had long since resigned herself to hopelessness. Nearly every player within this star system originated from Earth, so the odds of anyone possessing magical capabilities were infinitesimally slim. Still, her ship had abruptly picked up a magical signature mid-flight, reigniting a flicker of desperate hope within her. She had tracked the signal all the way here, only for the trail to disappear without a trace. With no other options left, she pinned her hopes on the nearest planet in her vicinity. She zoomed in on the star chart to lock onto the coordinates and maneuvered her ship into a gradual dive toward the planet's surface. Down on the planetary surface, Bai Qi remained completely oblivious to the incoming stranger. He was currently leaning beside Ilya, scrolling through the star system's public chat channel while the young girl read a comic book at his side. Tom and Jerry, meanwhile, were hard at work. The pair sat side by side at the edge of the excavation pit wearing identical expressions of weary resignation, each propping their cheeks up with one paw. They listlessly tossed miniature bombs one after another down into the pit below. As Bai Qi casually scrolled through the channel feed, a newly posted message immediately seized his full attention. "Folks, huge breaking news. I stumbled across a white hole during my interstellar voyage. I flew in to investigate out of curiosity, and guess what I found? Cut the suspense and spill it already. A white hole. I thought everyone only talked about black holes. Aren't white holes just theoretical phenomena? Has anyone actually seen a real one with their own eyes?" The comment section flooded with heated discussion. The poster dragged out the anticipation for a full 30 seconds before revealing the truth behind the so-called white hole. No more teasing. Calling it a white hole isn't entirely accurate, but the space is blindingly white. When I drew near, the system sent a notification. It's actually an entrance to a team dungeon. Can you believe it? The dungeon itself has zero introductory information. No details on potential rewards or threat ratings are listed anywhere. The entrance does have a strict hard rule though. Exactly 5 participants are required to activate the dungeon. The portal stays dormant and inaccessible unless a full five-person team assembles to attempt the challenge. The announcement instantly roused dozens of silent lurkers, throwing the entire star system chat into an uproar. No one had anticipated dungeon content within this interstellar survival game, especially one shrouded in total mystery with a fixed player cap. Curiosity and caution warred within every player reading the thread. Some were eager to team up and take the risk, chasing great rewards through bold gambles. Others planned to steer well clear of the anomaly if they ever crossed paths with it. Baichi's gaze drifted toward Ilya and the two small creatures beside him. He had no clue whether summoned companions counted toward the five-person participant quota required for the Whitehole dungeon. With no practical way to test the rule right now, he set the thought aside and continued reading the chat messages. I'd love to give it a shot, but how do we even get there? Exactly. Most of us don't even know our own current coordinates, let alone how to reach that dungeon. Without navigation markers, it's all just empty talk. Plus, we have zero intel on what waits inside the dungeon. Better to focus on steady resource gathering and leave it to fate for now. Baichi could not agree more with these sentiments. Even if he wanted to attempt the dungeon, he had no feasible way to travel there without precise coordinates. Beyond the travel barrier lay countless unknown risks. What if the 5 team members turned on and betrayed one another mid-challenge? Or what if the dungeon's victory condition demanded only a single survivor out of the whole party? Too many unknown variables hung over the whole prospect. Most importantly, he simply had no means of reaching the portal regardless. Baichi was lost in these thoughts when a sharp, excited squeal pulled him back to his surroundings. He lifted his head to see Tom waving a tiny paw frantically toward the center of the excavation pit. The gesture told him everything he needed to know. They had uncovered the star core at last. In that exact moment, Ilya, who had been leaning peacefully against Baichi's side, stiffened slightly. Unlike technological detection equipment, her identity as a magical girl granted her far sharper sensory perception for magical energy. The dormant magical circuits within her body stirred to life once more. A faint yet unmistakable wave of magical energy was steadily descending toward the planet from high up in the atmosphere. The aura itself was faint in strength, yet Ilya could not rule out the possibility that its power was being deliberately suppressed and masked. She knitted her small brows together, tugging gently at the hem of Baichi's shirt to catch his attention. She tilted her head upward, her tone laced with quiet vigilance. "Brother, something is coming down from the sky. I can sense magical energy." The joy of discovering the star core vanished from Baichi's mind in an instant as he looked upward toward the heavens, irritation simmering in his chest. Why now, of all moments? Right after we finally dug up a star core? Was this a pure coincidence, or a calculated arrival? Whatever the case, this star core was his and his alone. His resolve hardened with the thought. He tightened the laser sword fastened to his waist and gripped his E-300 revolver firmly, standing ready to face whatever approached. A low whooshing roar cut through the air high above the clearing. Vibrations hummed through the atmosphere as thick cloud cover was torn apart. The sleek, beautifully shaped black spacecraft burst into open sky and hovered directly overhead, blanketing Baichi and his group beneath its hull. Every member of Baichi's party tensed into defensive stances on the ground. Inside the suspended craft's cockpit, the woman in the black dress watched the tense, guarded group below through the high-definition viewport. Her slender fingers tightened nervously. Anxiety and fear gnawed at her, making it hard for her to breathe evenly. She was a vulnerable civilian with no combat capabilities whatsoever. She had only dared venture out in search of the magical signal thanks to her ship's superior speed. Nerves racked her entire body. Her anxiety faded slightly when the tall, steady figure on the ground struck a familiar chord in her memory. Curiosity spurred her to open the interstellar trading platform and cross-reference user avatars against the man standing below her ship. After double-checking her findings, she relaxed marginally. There was no mistaking him. This was Baichi, the well-known player revered across the star system for sharing valuable supplies with fellow survivors from Earth. Surely someone with such a reputation would not be hostile toward her. Her warm, eager voice crackled through the external speakers, breaking the heavy silence hanging over the clearing. "Is that Senior Baichi? I've long admired your reputation. I'm a huge fan of yours. I promise I mean no harm at all." Baichi raised an eyebrow at the abrupt attempt to curry favor, though he did not drop his guard entirely. "If your intentions are truly harmless, come down and speak face to face." The woman shifted awkwardly in her seat. She cautiously lowered the ship a short distance to hover roughly 10 meters above the ground. a height she deemed safely out of reach. She then stepped to the viewport, revealing a strikingly cold and flawless face. Her refined features paired with pale skin and an aloof aura gave her an unapproachable, icy demeanor at first glance. It felt wildly mismatched with the warm, pleading tone she had used over the speakers moments earlier. Fidgeting with the hem of her dress through the window, she spoke with visible hesitation. "I'm sorry, Senior. I have no way to defend myself at all, and I'm terribly skittish. Could we please just talk from here instead?" Bai Qi stared on in bewilderment. He would never have believed that such a cold, impassive facial expression could produce such a pleading tone if he had not witnessed it firsthand. He fell silent for a beat before responding slowly. "Very well. State your business, then leave once you are finished." Relief flickered across the woman's face at his willingness to converse with her. "May I ask a straightforward question, Senior? Do you possess magical power?" Bai Qi's nerves tightened at the question, yet his facial expression remained completely neutral as he replied, without a moment's pause. "I do not. Goodbye." He gestured sharply to dismiss her the second the words left his mouth, leaving zero room for negotiation. Panic washed over the woman clinging to the viewport, her large eyes welling up with tears behind her cold exterior. "Wait, please don't send me away just like that, Senior." She pressed her face up against the transparent window, abandoning all composure in her desperation. "I know you must have some leads related to magic. Please share whatever you know with me. This is incredibly important to my survival out here. My talent serves no other purpose besides tracking magical signatures. Without finding a source of magic, I have practically no way to function in this harsh star system. Have mercy on me, please. I traveled all this way following the signal. Don't turn me away immediately." Tears began streaming down her cheeks as she broke down into quiet sobs against the viewport. Bai Qi's heart tugged with sympathy at her distraught display, yet he forced himself to steel his resolve against compassion. One could never truly know another person's intentions in this lawless void, and caution was paramount. He already stood out far more than most players for selling Earth origin goods, a quirk others could easily write off as a natural ability tied to his talent. He understood the critical need to blend in with the rest of the player population. Drawing unnecessary attention by displaying abnormal traits would only spell serious trouble down the line. He hardened his gaze and looked away from the crying woman. "I truly have no knowledge of this magic you speak of. You followed your signal to the wrong location." Her eyes remained red, rimmed with flushed nostrils, tears streaking her cold, handsome features. "My talent has never given a false reading," she sniffled stubbornly. "Please think again, Senior. Are you certain you have never come across anything magical? A strange artifact, an unusual crystal, or perhaps met someone with abnormal abilities?" Bai Qi threw his hands up in helpless resignation. "I really haven't encountered anything of the sort." The woman was left with no remaining options. She stood frozen against the viewport for a long moment before pacing anxiously back and forth inside the cockpit. A desperate idea suddenly popped into her head. She bit her lower lip, her facial features still blank and impassive even as she voiced her reckless ultimatum. "If you refuse to tell me what you know, I'll have no choice but to post accusations about you on the Star System public channel. I'll tell everyone you lured me to this planet under false pretenses and acted maliciously toward me out here in deep space." She shrank back nervously the instant the threat left her mouth, avoiding eye contact with Bai Qi out of guilt over her bluff. Bai Qi's brows shot upward sharply. Was she truly willing to fabricate damaging rumors out of desperation? Even the normally quiet Ilya looked thoroughly stunned by the woman's bold threat, her face flushing faintly as she hid herself further behind Bai Qi's back. "Miss, are you dead set on insisting I hold relevant information? I genuinely have zero clues regarding magic." Bai Qi let out a long, weary sigh, thoroughly perplexed by the whole situation unfolding before him. It was the first time in his life that he had met someone so unreasonable and stubborn. Yet Bai Qi's words fell on deaf ears. "I don't care." Her gaze was firm, her tone unyielding. "My innate talent can never be wrong. I definitely picked up magical energy fluctuations, and you must know something about it." Irritation finally got the better of Bai Qi, his voice dropping sharply with palpable impatience and anger. "You are being completely unreasonable." The woman stiffened the moment those words hit her ears, all her forced bravado vanishing in an instant. She could clearly sense the frustration and genuine fury laced in his tone, sending a surge of panic rushing through her heart. Every other player possessed a private spacecraft paired with their unique talent, while hers had been rendered unusable from the very start, putting her at a massive disadvantage right out the gate. If not for the sheer luck of her vessel's high travel speed, she would have perished countless times already. Now her last ray of hope was fading away, leaving her truly backed into a corner with nowhere to turn. Her emotions gradually settled, her voice now earnest and sincere. "Senior, I genuinely have no other options left." She drew a deep breath, as if wagering everything she owned within this star sector, then spoke with solemn resolve. "If you are willing to share even the tiniest clue regarding this magical energy, I will swear lifelong allegiance to you from this moment onward. My spacecraft, my talent, every asset I own will all be placed under your command. I will follow you for the rest of my days, obey all your orders, and never betray you under any circumstance." Bai Qi was utterly stunned by her vow that staked her entire future. He stared blankly at the woman in the black dress standing before the observation window, shock plain to see in his eyes. After a moment of daze, he let out a mocking huff. "Nice looks and a good figure she may have, but I can summon fictional partners straight from anime worlds. How could she possibly compare? Did she really think this kind of bargain would sway me?" When the system notification popped up stating Tier 2 flagship unlocks subordinate vessel recruitment, Bai Qi made up his mind without the slightest hesitation. "Well, maybe I can make an exception for this offer. Kids get hung up on picking sides. I'll take all the benefits available." Clutching the intact star core excavated by Jerry, he immediately initiated the ship upgrade process. This upgrade was nothing like the minor tweaks he had done previously. It brought a complete, transformative leap in overall performance. A sprawling network of warship advancement branches unfurled across the system interface, boasting an extensive, layered system split into 8 core classifications: combat, logistics, reconnaissance, engineering, ecological, support, commercial, and carrier-type vessels. Each main category branched out into more than 10 specialized configurations, offering an overwhelming range of customization choices. At first, Bai Qi intended to pick a combat-focused build, but the special nature of his ability, paired with his existing pipe vessel and the woman's spacecraft, meant standard variants could no longer satisfy his ambitions. His gaze finally locked onto the very top option on the list, the carrier class. It consumed the most energy and resources to build, yet stood unmatched in versatility and potential ceiling. The second he confirmed his selection, a brilliant pillar of pure white light crashed down, enveloping the entire Gambler flagship completely. The hull shuddered violently as metal components restructured and the ship's framework iterated, its size visibly expanding at a rapid rate. Before the refitting process finished, an updated vessel stat sheet materialized before him. Exclusive warship, Gambler carrier, main vessel configuration level, LV. 2 durability, 100% full structural repair plus reinforced plating speed. 10 carriers have the lowest baseline speed among all warship classifications. External module, feline thruster speed bonus, 1. Internal modules, compact radar system, fleet command system, X4 empty berths for carried spacecraft. Armaments, electromagnetic railgun, twin metallic cannons. Energy, 100% sustained power input from the star core. Unlock permissions, subordinate vessel recruitment, fleet communication channel. Upgrade requirements, 5-star cores, 100,000 high. Grade metal, 100,000 high. Grade timber, 1 void material obtained as dungeon clearance reward evaluation. You have stepped into the ranks of frontline interstellar carriers, gaining the qualifications to command a fleet. Multiple subordinate warships can be docked, marking the initial formation of your personal interstellar combat force. Watching his black flagship balloon from 100 meters to 400 meters in length, a surge of excitement welled up inside Bai Qi that he could barely contain. He wasted no time spending resources to upgrade and formally integrate the pipe vessel as his subordinate craft, carried subordinate craft, pipe vessel light reconnaissance ship, vacant captain position level, LV.2. Durability, 100% speed, 23. External module, smoke emitter internal. Module, compact radar. Armaments, none. Energy, 100% constant power supply via star core description. While docked within the carrier, the main flagship gains full access to all modules and unique capabilities mounted on this vessel. This was absolutely perfect. He had made the right call without a shadow of doubt. The ability for his carrier to freely access and utilize every module and special ability belonging to its subordinate ships alone made this upgrade an undeniable win. As Bai Qi admired his brand new carrier with delight, the woman in black aboard her hovering spacecraft stared on in complete awe. She pressed her palms against the viewport, her eyes blown wide open, shock breaking through her usual impassive expression. She had been plagued with doubts earlier, questioning whether surrendering everything to Bai Qi was a worthwhile trade or a foolish mistake. Now it was clear she had struck gold with her decision. She had displayed excellent judgment and latched onto the most powerful ally possible ahead of everyone else. There was no need for her to struggle relentlessly anymore, nor to chase down traces of magical energy. Even without her functional talent, she would lead a secure, stable life from now on. Throwing all sense of reserve aside for fear that Bai Qi might change his mind, she spoke in an urgent, eager tone. Wow, Senior, this is incredible. Please recruit my ship into your fleet too. I've already pledged my full loyalty to you anyway. Bai Qi readily agreed to the woman's eager offer. Opportunities this profitable were few and far between. He instantly approved the subordinate vessel binding request sent from her ship. Subordination contract bound successfully. Permanent subordination activated. Both parties are prohibited from attacking one another. Violation results in immediate system, enforced termination. Standard subordinate contracts allow voluntary termination, which automatically takes effect if left unreviewed for 24 hours alongside revoked system protection. This contract is permanent with no termination provisions whatsoever. Both parties read the contract terms and understood their agreement was irreversible, putting both of their minds at ease. Bai Qi looked upward toward the hovering craft and called out in a clear voice. You can rest easy now. Come down to the surface. Your ship cannot receive upgrades while docked in orbit. She flashed him an OK gesture from her cockpit and maneuvered her vessel into a slow descent. The airlock door slid open, and she strode out quickly, lifting her gaze to the tall young man standing before her. She greeted him with an abrupt address that caught him completely off guard. Captain, please bring my ship into your carrier's berths right away. The air fell silent for 2 full seconds after that title left her mouth. Bai Qi froze on the spot, rigid all over with a completely blank, stunned expression. Meanwhile, the woman in black remained oblivious to the awkward atmosphere. Seeing Bai Qi standing motionless, she assumed he disliked the title she had used. She tilted her head in thoughtful contemplation for a moment before speaking candidly. If you don't prefer that name, should I call you Master? Or perhaps something else? Stop right there. Bai Qi broke out in goosebumps the second the last word was uttered, cold sweat prickling across his back as he rushed to cut her off. Terrified she would come up with even more awkward forms of address. Hiding behind Bai Qi, Ilya could no longer hold back her reaction. She had only been peeking quietly a moment prior, her gaze darting rapidly back and forth between Bai Qi and the woman in black as her small mind struggled to process the scene. Her cheeks flushed bright red, and faint wisps of simulated steam curled upward from the top of her head. Clenching her tiny fists, she tiptoed forward to peek out from behind him, speaking in a flustered, aggrieved tone thick with jealousy. That isn't right. You can't just make decisions like this on your own. She grabbed the hem of Bai Qi's clothing with her small hands, glistening tears pooling in her wide eyes. Bai Qi glanced at Ilya, seething with jealousy with her head practically steaming, then back at the oblivious woman who had no idea she had stirred up trouble. A splitting headache washed over him instantly. He quickly soothed Ilya before turning toward the woman in black. Quit using odd honorifics. Just call me by my given name. Without pausing to check the woman's personal profile, he led the whole group into the newly upgraded gambler carrier to shift the conversation to another topic. The 2 carefree younger companions darted excitedly around the interior of their new home, familiarizing themselves with the expanded living quarters. Bai Qi pulled up the ship's management panel and told the woman to design her own private living quarters as she saw fit. After sending Ilya off to take a bath, he finally let out a breath of relief and began examining every detail of his newly upgraded carrier carefully.